College football is just 15 days away, and now is when they try to change its pronouns? The hell is going on? CFB. Cole, have you heard this new terminology that's starting to pick up a little steam? They're now not going to call it the Power Four anymore. There's a lot of people out there trying to get started Core Four. Core Four.
Never heard of it.
You've never heard of that?
Never heard of
it. It's like in Mean Girls when they try to make fetch happen. Stop trying to make fetch happen, right? Core Four. They're trying to get that started. I hate it. I don't want to do it. I mean, I came from a 1AA school, and it took people like a decade to stop saying 1AA and start saying FCS. I'm sure there's fans of OG programs in that division who still call it 1AA. But we're close, man. Teams are putting on pads. They're hitting each other again. They're swinging helmets at each other. It's wild out there in the streets of college football these days. But in this very first segment, we're going right to the heart of the issue. Our medal stand predictions for each of the Core Four conferences. I think they like it because it rhymes.
I just don't know if I can ever get used to that. What is core?
I know.
I mean, we're not. No, that's not an ab work.
Well, think about it. Power Five, that terminology didn't exist till about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You got used to that. Couldn't you get used to this?
It's going to take 3 years. Give me 3 years. Check back in 2027.
By the time people start getting used to calling it Core Four, it's going to drop to 2 conferences.
That's true.
So then what are we going to do then? Welcome to Wire to Wire. He's Cole Bryson. My name is Diesel. It's a big day in college football land as there's so much happening out there, so much going on in camps. We have preseason football getting started as well.
Let's go.
And Cole, how far are we away from week 0 of high school football?
15 days.
15 days.
15 days till kickoff, baby.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yes. I'm stoked. But 4 conferences, those are the ones that people really care about. Yes, there's going to be one more school coming out of a non-power conference, a non-core conference, who's going to make the ultimate college football playoff. But I would love for you and I, Cole, to go down the list of these Core Four, these Power Four conferences, and make our medal stand predictions. Want to get the Tolos predictions as well, especially if you can back it up. I mean, you can give us your 1, 2, 3 in each of the big 4 conferences. That's fine.
Yeah.
But we would love for some actual reasoning behind it, right? Some actual predictions behind it. Tell us why you feel the way that you feel. You could do that by texting 71307, starting your text with keyword fan. You can also call us on the Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone. That's 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-326-3663. Appreciate you, Tolos, for Toloing today, which means turn it on, leave it on. Don't forget to tell 2 friends before the end of the show today. But the big fun things are happening over here. Cole, why don't we start with the weakest of the power conferences?
The SEC?
No.
Sorry.
The ACC.
Okay, gotcha.
I mean, is it even up for debate that ACC is the weakest of the Power Four conferences?
No, I think I will say this. Sometimes, Diesel, it's a year-to-year basis with them in the Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it wouldn't surprise me if this year the ACC was bigger than the Big 12. Big 12 this year does seem like it could be a little down. Utah, Arizona. I don't know. I would say that they are the weakest, but this year I think the Big 12 might be a little weaker.
Yeah, it's always fun figuring out, who is the strongest conference top to bottom. I think that's probably if you want to look at it in terms of parity, the number of teams that could actually go out and win the conference, it's probably the Big 12. I look at the Big 10, like there's maybe 3 good programs in that conference this year, or good teams in that conference this year. And then it's everybody else. The SEC, deep to about the midpoint of that conference. The ACC, very top heavy. The Big 10, very top heavy. So let's start there, Cole, with the ACC. Love for you, Tolos, to get your predictions in. 71307. I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off, give you mine, and then tell you why I chose what I chose. How about that?
Good.
Number 3, the Florida State Seminoles.
Wow.
I like the Florida State Seminoles to come in 3rd in the ACC this year. I think they've got a ton of talent. That's not really up for debate. But the question ultimately is DJU worth a damn in the ACC? He wasn't his first time around. He played scared football. Could he play scared football by coming back, right? Could he start having flashbacks of his days playing in the ACC? He went out west. He danced with those nice West Coast girls, and he's back in the ACC. I don't know that he's really going to be able to make some leaps and bounds improvement this year. I know he's going to have a better roster than what he had at Oregon State last year. He's not going to have a better roster than what he had at Clemson. At least that's up for debate. But I like the Florida State Seminoles to finish in third this year. I like Miami in second. Cam Ward is just an absolute beast, and they play a nothing of a schedule, right? They don't really play that tough of a schedule down the stretch. And I got Clemson finishing first in the ACC, not because they're going to be leaps and bounds better than everybody else, but I think they're just marginally better than everybody else. And somebody's got to win this conference.
Somebody has to. I picked yesterday when you and I were at Ingles and did our official Clemson predictions. I picked Florida State to beat Clemson. So because that's the case, I can't agree with you as much as I would like to on Clemson finishing first. I just think that there's so much weight on that October 5th, I think, that October game between Clemson and Florida State in Tallahassee. I don't hate where you have Miami. I think Miami still, though, has question marks around them. And, to your point, we looked at their schedule earlier this week. They have a weak schedule in terms of their talent versus opponents, right? They should run the table in a lot of those games, Diesel. However, I differ from you on the ACC top three. I have NC State in my top three. Yeah, I think they're going to have a really good year. I think NC State's going to be a solid team. I love their head coach. I know Clemson fans don't, but they've got a really good coaching staff, consistency over the last 5-6 years. I have NC State 3, Clemson 2, and because I picked Florida State to beat Clemson, that game meaning a lot now. Remember, that game could decide the ACC. Could. I have Florida State finishing 1. However, if you're right and Clemson goes to Tallahassee and wins, then my predictions, would most likely be wrong because Clemson would probably win the ACC.
Do you see more than 2 ACC teams in any way getting into the final 12 playoff?
It's a great question. I think there's a possibility for it. I think Florida State and Clemson both, if they can escape, Clemson has Georgia early. And the benefit of Clemson having Georgia early is by the end of the season, a lot of people will have forgotten about that game, right? Because it's going to be a bad
how
loss.
Much of a whooping it was.
That's true. Florida State has an opportunity to get in if they don't win the conference, as long as they don't screw the pooch somewhere else. I do
hate it
think
when they do that.
I think 2 could get in from the ACC, but I'll tell you this. It's going to be tough. And if I had to bet money on it, I'd probably say no, but I'm telling you, man, it's going to be really, really tough for 2 to have the resume that goes up against other resumes.
Madcraft likes Miami. Of course he does. Madcraft likes Miami to win the ACC. Miami 1, Clemson 2, Florida State 3. He says Miami beats Florida State and doesn't play Clemson. Clemson loses to Florida State. Miami's schedule sets up to walk into the ACC conference championship game. JD calling that one out, says someone has their hurricane goggles on. Madcraft, I don't necessarily hate your thought process there. I mean, they're not going to have to play the gauntlet in the ACC as much as some of these other teams have. The thing that scares me about that, if I'm a Miami fan, is that you haven't really been tested over the course of the season. You don't really know how good you are. And we've seen in the past, Cole, teams that look really good in the regular season get into bowl games and then just be lacking because they didn't play a hard schedule.
No NC State.
Right?
No Clemson.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
I could see Miami doing that, the possibility of them doing that, and then getting into the 12-team playoff and facing off against the Big Ten team and just getting wrecked.
Or getting wrecked in the ACC championship.
It's true.
If they were to get there, I'd take Clemson over Miami. I'd take whoever. They do play Florida State, but other than that, they just have a very weak schedule, man. And again, Florida's down. You and I have talked about that, but that's August 31st. That's in like 3 weeks. We'll have forgotten about that game. And the thing about it is, if you don't blow Florida out, if Florida hangs around and you barely escape, then I just don't know if I'm buying the Miami hype. You've got to go they're down and out. You've got to go handle business.
You know what else is going to start in 3 weeks? The upset picks contest.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, it will.
That's right.
Yes, it will. There's some week 0 games.
Gosh.
I think there's 3 in week 0 that currently have lines listed on ESPN.com. So you'll be able to pick between those 3 games. It'll be the Florida State Georgia Tech game. And then I believe it's Montana State and somebody. Like it's an FCS FBS game. They don't usually put lines on that, but I guess because there's not that many games that weekend, they're gonna put a line on it. And then there's one more game off the top of my head. I'm blanking on who it is, but
I'm really excited about the upset picks. I just don't think it being my first year, I'm worried.
It's okay. My first time, I was actually really good. Oh,
were you really?
Yeah. Okay. And then it went downhill. Hard and fast after that. First year, I was just bam, 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 picking them off. Yeah, rolling. I think I was in the top 10 of this contest. And then you start getting a little cocky, right?
Yeah.
Then you start overthinking the room a little bit.
I'm excited,
man. And then just sometimes you can just go on a cold streak, man. Yeah. You can just be like Drake and his gambling habits. You could just be on a cold streak and you make what you think are intelligent picks, and then they just don't pan out for you. So be ready for that. You Tolos who want to participate in the contest, we love that you do. We know that this thing is going to be bigger than it ever has been before, and we want you to be a part of that. All right, next, let's move down south and west to the Big 12. How about that? The Big 12 that now stretches all the way from Central Florida to Arizona, which doesn't make any sense. Why don't you just call it the bottom half conference, the bottom half of the continental United States? How about that? Number 3, I've got Kansas. Jalen Daniels, they got the number 58 strength of schedule. They've got an easy road. They're an experienced team with a lot of older depth. I like Kansas. I mean, they're not typically a power team, so they're kind of a show-me program at this point. I wouldn't be shocked if they finished higher than 3, but just because they haven't shown it a lot, They seem like one of those teams that could falter at any point. I've got Arizona at number 2. They got 15 starters back this year, but they lack a lot of depth. Last I checked on their number of Letterman returning, they're getting 15 starters back, but they're only bringing back like 25 Letterman from the team. So it's a very, very young team. But Noah Fafita, he is an excellent quarterback. I like his ability to go out there and create. And number 1 on my Big 12 medal stand, my gold medal team, I got Utah.
Yep.
Cam Rising is an absolute beast. They've got Arizona at home. They've got TCU at home. Their toughest game is going to be Oklahoma State on the road. Outside of that, it's basically a cakewalk for the Utah Utes.
It is. And guess what? Utah, I agree with you. Utah is going to get in the playoff. Utah's a playoff team.
I think so too.
And you're right. They have a very good quarterback, experienced quarterback. Some good games at home. I don't think they lose an out-of-conference game. Baylor week 2, I believe. Utah's going to be a good team, and I have Utah 1 as well. However, I will flip 2 and 3, where you have Arizona 2. Noah Fafata, we talked about him yesterday in Carson Beck versus. I have Arizona 3, and I'm high on Jalen Daniels, man. I really am. I could be dead wrong, but I just feel like this is a year that we have a really good feel-good story with Kansas, good coaching staff. I like Kansas, too, in the Big 12.
And it feels weird to have Kansas back being relevant again. It's one of those things. It's like what is it? Every 100 years, the cicadas come up out of the ground, where every 12 years, Kansas Jayhawks come out of the woodworks and they show themselves to be a good football team. It's weird how that happens there at Kansas. Let's move north of that now to the Big 10. Number 3, I've got Ohio State 2, Penn State 1, Oregon. Now that's the shocker.
Wow.
Should be if you're an Ohio State fan to know that I've got you number 3 behind Penn State. Ohio State, I mean, these are all going to be really good teams, right? This is going to be a slog of a conference. But the way I see it playing out is Ohio State, number 3, they've got a ton of talent. Will Howard, he's a transfer in from Kansas State, not this year transfer. He was a last year transfer. He looked good last year, but that road game against Penn State ultimately going to decide it. And I do think Penn State, they're going to throw a wide out. They're going to throw everything at them they can possibly throw at them. And I think Penn State just gets it done. I just got a hunch. About them. I like Penn State in that game because, well, Drew Aller is an absolute beast. They get Ohio State and Washington at home this year. Like I said, I just think the stars kind of align in the right way for Penn State, but who knows? They have disappointed a lot of people in the past, so that could always happen again. And number 1, Oregon, they're just friggin' loaded with Dan Lanning. I love Dan Lanning. I would love to see Dan Lanning win a national championship. I think they win the head-to-head versus Ohio State, which is in Oregon
that's
this
going to
year.
be a good game.
That's coming up on October 12th. That's one of the biggest games of the year.
Yep.
This is that tinkerer's wet dream, right? The people who've always wanted to see Ohio State and Oregon play, the ones who have always wanted to see Texas and Florida play, or Texas and Georgia play. You're finally getting your wish. So
you said, talking about Penn State, that you had a hunch, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what my hunch is. My hunch is that the Ohio State curse, now that old Jimmy H has left for the NFL, it's over. My hunch is that this is Ohio State's year to make a run at a national title again and possibly play in the national championship. Oregon's loaded. There's no doubt about that. I have in the Big Ten Ohio State winning the Big Ten. You're right. That October game between Ohio State and Oregon, sign me up. There's nothing else that matters that day, right? Deer season, nothing. We're going to be watching that one. Oregon 2, and I have Penn State 3. I love Oregon, but I also love Ohio State, and I think Ryan Day gets over the hump this year. He's kind of due, and he's going to have a stacked team. He's used the portal. He's recruited well, and I think my hunch is that Ohio State this year is the team that goes and makes the run at glory once again, like they did with old Zeke back in 2014.
It's weird to think now it's been a decade since Ohio State's last national championship.
10 years.
2014. I mean, they played for it in 2020. That was a weird season. It's kind of I think we all had a lot on our minds in 2020.
But that 14 team, Diesel, they were nasty.
Unbelievable.
They were nasty.
Unbelievable. Now to everybody's heart and soul, the SEC. This one I think is going to confuse some people, Cole. I've got Alabama number 3, Texas 2, and the Georgia Bulldogs number 1. Alabama is going to be an excellent football team. They're going to be great. But with a new coach, they got a familiar quarterback there with Milroe. I think there's just a chance that they stumble against one of these big games that they play. They've got just an absolutely loaded schedule. Somebody is going to come out of that scrum, that Thunderdome, the winner, and I just don't know that it's going to be Alabama. They got too many question marks relatively to the other teams on my list. I got Texas number 2. I think they have a lot of similarities to Alabama, the way that they're built, but Texas having Steve Sarkisian in place, having Quinn Ewer in place, I think there's just fewer little cracks in the dam that could open up. And I've got Georgia number 1. They are the Death Star without the exhaust port. There is no exhaust port to fire a photon torpedo into. You ain't blowing up this Death Star, my friend.
No, you know what? It's really hard to disagree with you on Georgia at 1. Like, as much as I want to say Texas at 1 or Bama at 1, it's hard. Like, right now, Kirby's the guy in the SEC. Now that Saban's gone, there's no – Sark is really close. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big Sark guy. I like Sarkisian a lot. But Kirby's the guy, and Kirby's going to be the guy until somebody knocks him off. There's no way that you can take somebody else, put somebody else at 1 until – what Ric Flair say? To be the man, you got to beat the man. Somebody's got to beat the man for me to put him at 1. However, I told you a couple of weeks ago before I was out for vacation, Bama ain't going nowhere, right? I busted that narrative. They're not going anywhere. Texas isn't back, Diesel. I have Texas at 3. I have Bama at 2. Bama's not going anywhere, and I have Georgia at 1.
Madcraft has Georgia 1, Bama 2, South Carolina 3. And Madcraft, he's joking, but I'm not going to put up your other one because I want what you see on screen here to be burned into the pixels on my screen so that you can't get away from that, Madcraft. Now, there's too much pride in this conference to let newcomers Texas waltz in year number 1 and just wham, lay it on the table and go win the whole damn conference. Man, I would lose a lot of respect for the SEC if you let a newcomer walk in and do that.
You know what, though? Could they? Absolutely.
Yeah,
they could. But we're splitting hairs here.
We are
splitting hairs, and I think that Bama is really close to being that third team. Some days I think about it, I'm thinking, oh, Bama, they could finish first. But again, Georgia's the guy until somebody knocks him off. Bama and Texas, though, those two are really tough for me to have to split hairs on, if you will, and decide who finishes 2 and 3. It's going to be a lot of fun, though, with Texas. I think it adds a little bit of it makes the conference a little more interesting, right? We don't have the same old, and now there's no divisions, which I also think I like that a lot.
Live update for you. Team USA down 5 in the first quarter against Serbia, 25-20 in the Olympic men's basketball semifinal. Could this be it?
Well, Serbia is the team. That Brian Windhorst, I'm going to try to put that on it's live, right?
It is live, yeah.
I'm going to try to find that so we can
47
watch it.
seconds to go in the first quarter, according to ESPN.com.
Brian Windhorst talks about Serbia being the team that could give them trouble.
We'll track it down. We'll bird dog it in the commercial break.
There's a lot going on right now, Olympic-wise. And it looks like it's, there's a lot going on. I'd love to be there, even though I'm not a big Olympics fan.
Would you go to LA in 4 years for the Olympics in LA?
Yeah, if they Odyssey paid for it, right?
Would you spend your own money on it?
No, absolutely not. No, sorry.
Can we get the Olympics back in Atlanta, please?
That'd be great.
I would love that.
It'd be great. They still wouldn't send us, but it'd be great. It could be in Greenville, right?
Sorry, guys.
It's too expensive. That's too expensive.
We'd have to put in our ticket request.
Yeah. So those are our 2024. What are we calling these? Diesel Core 4?
Core 4 predictions.
I don't like that at all.
Core 4 medal stands.
I'm sorry, but I just don't like it. We are going to keep it college football in the very next segment. Day 4. The game continues, but ladies and gentlemen, it could end today. Carson Beck versus Day 4 next. Well, day 4, let's see if Diesel says it's time to end this madness. What am I talking about? We started the game on Monday called Carson Beck versus. Basically, I give Diesel an opponent. I give him Carson Beck, and I give him one other quarterback. I've given him Shedeur Sanders. I've given him yesterday Arizona's quarterback, who is a really good quarterback. I think he has the best name in college football. Even though it's hard to pronounce, I think it's a great name. Noah Fafata. He still chose Carson Beck. Let's see if he does it again today. Today, though, Diesel, I'm going to make this thing a little bit more difficult for you. I do hate to tell you, day 4, Carson Beck versus opponent. You ready? Quinn Ewers. Told you it's going to get more.
Tough.
Yeah, it's going to get more difficult.
This is when it starts to get really tough.
Last year, 69% completion rating. It's a good number. 3,479 yards, 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. A quarterback rating of 158.6, 2022. He had 2,000 yards. He threw for 1,300 more yards in 23 than he did 22. He threw for 7 more touchdowns, Diesel. And guess what? Interception numbers are so low. 6 in 2022, 6 in 2023. Quinn Ewers is a machine. He's a Heisman candidate. I'm high on him. Are you high enough on Quinn Ewers to say this is the day the game comes to an end?
This is when it gets really tough, okay? Now is when we start kind of parsing words, splitting hairs, because these are both two excellent and truly nationally elite quarterbacks. The problem is that Carson Beck's still better at basically every category than Quinn Ewers. 3,900 yards to 3,400 yards. 3,900 sounds bigger to me. 24 touchdowns to 22 touchdowns. Interception numbers the same. They're both elite. 6 interceptions on the season last year. QBR 5th for Carson Beck. QBR 17th for Quinn Ewers. I like Quinn Ewers a lot, and I would not be mad at all if Quinn Ewers decided to transfer to my team, but I'd be happier about it if Carson Beck did it because he's just a little bit more efficient.
Wow.
A little bit.
Man.
I mean, is there a good reason as to why I'm wrong here? Because they're both fantastic.
They're both really good. And I thought that I was going to get you today. I thought that I was going to bring the sledgehammer, the big guns. I thought I was going to get you. They're both really good quarterbacks. I think Quinn Ewers in the Texas system is just so good. And I think him and Sark have developed such good chemistry. And the offense this year, he improved by 1,300 last year, 1,300 yards. This year, I can't imagine him throwing for 4,000 yards, but I expect something similar to 3,479 yards like he threw for last year and an almost 160 quarterback rating, Diesel. He is as good as they come. Now, you talk about splitting hairs. Yes, when you look at these two, Quinn Ewers, Carson Beck, you are splitting hairs. I would take Quinn Ewers. Now, if you told me to write a 5-page essay on why I would take Quinn Ewers over Carson Beck, I couldn't do it. I could give you a couple of reasons, but your point, you said it. They're both phenomenal. They're both going to be in New York City when the season's all said and done. I like the physical attributes that Quinn Ewers has. I like his intangibles. Carson Beck, he's a really good quarterback. Nothing against him, but I like the body style. I like the physical attributes, the arm strength. Quinn Ewers, I would take. However, the game's not up to me. I designed the game to be up to you, and it sounds like you say game rolls on.
Game on. Madcraft says Beck is good, but he's propped up by having a phenomenal team around him, similar to J.J. McCarthy. Newsflash here, Madcraft. Quinn Ewers has a phenomenal team around him too. So you can't really use that argument when both of these guys have the best of the best of the best around them. Quinn, he had that injury. I'm looking at that a little bit. I'm thinking about that just a little bit in 2022 where he was out for a couple of weeks.
He was.
That's not to say that that's, lingering and bothering him, but who knows? Who knows what these guys are going through? Carson Beck has been in that system a little bit longer. Like, when did being a system quarterback become a dirty word? A system quarterback is somebody who wins a lot of games on the team that they're on because they were chosen correctly for the system that the team runs. That's not the player's fault. That's the scout did a phenomenal job finding a quarterback who fits within that system. Miss me with this system quarterback argument. I hate it.
I'm not going to disagree with you there. If you're a system quarterback, a lot of people look at that as a insult. I don't really do that.
You know what system quarterbacks do? They win national championships on really good football teams.
I was going to say Nick Saban had several system quarterbacks, and they were not top draft picks. But it's fascinating to look at both of these guys head-to-head in the 2025 draft, because the reality of it is, unless something happens, unless there's an injury, one of these guys is going to go first. What's fascinating, though, Diesel, is, and again, mock drafts are mock drafts, but there are mock drafts out there for the 2025 draft that have Shedeur Sanders going number 1 overall to the Raiders. And those are real mock drafts. Again, I'm not agreeing with you, but listen, I got one even better for you. There are some mock drafts that have Travis Hunter, 2 Colorado Buffaloes going before Quinn Ewers and before Carson Beck. Now, most mock drafts, Diesel, do have Carson Beck going before Quinn Ewers. However, what I do not find correct, what I do find insulting, let me put it that way, what I do find insulting is you have to get all the way down to 9, 10, 11 in these mock drafts before you find Carson Beck or Quinn Ewers. And to me, come on, guys. Carson Beck, one mock draft has him going 9 to the Giants to replace Daniel Jones. Guess what? This same mock draft, you want to find Quinn Ewers, you got to go down to 13 to the Jets. Come on. Are you kidding me? These are 2 generational quarterbacks. I know the quarterback draft isn't what it was last year, but these are really good quarterbacks.
Yeah, and look, the hypothetical of what's going to happen with these guys if and when they make their way to the NFL is a moot point here. We're not talking about what might happen if they get drafted into the NFL. I understand the hard part of being a system quarterback in the NFL because you're being drafted to a team that doesn't have a system.
Well,
like they're drafting you highly because they suck. They need to try to figure out something around you. They don't have the same systems and coaching staffs put in around these players. That's why these system quarterbacks fail in the NFL. They're brought into the best possible situations for them in college, and then they're thrust into the worst possible situations for them in the NFL. But I don't care about that. I care about how good they are in college. Mad Kraft asked the question, if Quinn Ewers played right now at Georgia, what's that stat line look like in your opinion? Well, why don't you tell me? Why don't you tell me that there's a lot of people who want to paint radio hosts in a corner? I'm not saying Mad Kraft, you're doing this. I'm just saying that a lot of people like to do this. They like to try to paint a radio host into a corner by getting them with a gotcha question without actually providing any of their own work and explanation.
So the only thing I would say to the NFL draft standpoint of you not caring about it, I understand the system quarterback theology in the NFL, and I get that. However, the only reason I do put a little value and importance on it is you've got GMs, you've got general managers and coaches and directors of player personnel who evaluate players for a living, and for whatever reason, the guys that they're evaluating, for the majority, you might find a mock draft here and there that has Quinn Ewers ahead of Carson Beck. But these guys look at both quarterbacks and say, right now, it looks like, for whatever reason, Carson Beck might have a better future in the NFL. And a lot goes into that. A lot goes into an NFL quarterback, what's around him, obviously, what intangibles he has. But at the same time, as much stock as we put into guys playing good in college and turning into the NFL quarterback we want them to be, we've seen a million times those guys just don't translate. Georgia had a quarterback not long ago that, guess what? Right now in the NFL, you see him anywhere. He played for the Rams, had a couple of good preseason games last year. No, you don't find him. Just because you're good in college, I'm not saying it makes you good in the NFL. However, I do find it fascinating.
Hell, look at every quarterback that came out of Southern Cal over the past
Alabama.
20 years.
Or Alabama. Alabama doesn't have a lot of. I mean, Hurts and Tua obviously are the two recent, but
Hawk Tua?
Yeah, not that one. The different Tua.
Oh, okay.
You talk about A.J. McCarron and other guys who won national championships from Nick Saban. He didn't have a ton of guys who were these NFL quarterbacks. They were more system guys. I think these are two phenomenal quarterbacks. I would take Quinn Ewers over Carson Beck, but again, you couldn't ask me to write a 5-page documentary on why. I can give you a few reasons, but then again, if it's a different day, we're flipping a coin because they're both phenomenal.
Yeah, you really can't go wrong with either one of them. Their rosters are completely loaded. You could flip-flop these guys, and they would probably both have similar, if not, similar numbers at the other school that they have where they are, because they have the best of the best wherever you go. Georgia has elite talent all over the field. Texas has elite talent all over the field. Maybe you could say that Quinn Ewers would see a slight jump in his production because he's just got that little bit of extra depth at Georgia that he doesn't necessarily have yet at Texas. We'll see if Steve Sarkisian can do what Kirby Smart has done, which is just load up with 5 stars all over the place, no matter what position you're talking about, right? Texas may have a couple of 4 stars that are down the depth chart. Hell, they might even have a couple of 3 stars down the depth chart, but Georgia doesn't have that. They don't have that because, well, they're too good for that. When we come back, Cole, it's time to take a look around our daily wires, the whip around the sports world, getting you caught up on everything that's happening next on the Fan Up States. Oh, Team USA not looking so hot against Serbia.
Not good.
No, they are down. Well, according to, I don't have it up directly in front of me, and the live screen that we had just changed it. They're down 15 in the second quarter.
Come on.
Of that game. Team USA, get it together. We're going to get it together right here and take you all around the sports world in what we call our Daily Wires. Yeah, this is the buzz happening around the sports world. USA leads China 29-28 in gold medals. Still just a 1 gold lead for America. We're crushing them in the overall medal total, 101-72. Cole, did you get a live score on that?
No, it's on commercial break,
thanks.
of course.
Thanks, NBC. Come on.
We'll try.
Come on. Don't you know we have a live radio show to do here? This is fun, Cole. The French pole vaulter Anthony Emirati, who lost in the pole vault by knocking the bar off with his member, has been offered a $250,000 deal by adult website Cam Soda.
Wow.
Yeah. This is a message from Cam Soda's VP, Darren Parker. Quote, "We're always searching for top-tier talent that can offer one-of-a-kind content to our users. When we saw Anthony's performance in the pole vault competition last week, we wanted to present him with an offer to celebrate his physical statue rather than contribute to the distasteful comments he's been receiving." First of all, if the world knows you're packing heat, nobody's making distasteful comments. Everybody's like, "Congratulations, sir. We weren't aware." He says, he continues to say, "We're confident that watching Anthony's bulge on our site could inspire others around the world to stand erect and show off their own too. Should Anthony be interested in taking us up on this offer, we're happy to work with him on what his debut on Cam Soda would look like. We hope to help him regain his confidence after the Olympic events."
Wow. Regain. And by the way, it's 54-42.
Come on.
Almost halftime. Nobody has shown up except for Steph Curry, who has 20. Holiday 0, Devin Booker 3, LeBron 8, Embiid 7. Come on, guys.
We all knew this one was coming, Cole. The White Sox have fired their manager, Pedro Grifol.
Why?
Grifol.
What did he do wrong?
Lost 21 straight. You can't do that and keep your job. Not in major sports. Speaking of losing, the Braves lost again last night, 8-5. Now 7.5 games out of first place in the NL East. They got it all the way down to 6. They were playing hot baseball, and the Phillies sucked for a while. And then they just, flip-flopped that right back. Speaking of the Phillies, Kyle Schwarber hit 3 home runs in a comeback win last night over the Dodgers. So, the Phillies bats are hot again. Leaked footage. If you guys haven't seen this yet, man, it's scary. Leaked footage shows an as-of-yet unidentified App State player pulling off a teammate's helmet and hitting him in the head with it. We were scheduled to have on App State head coach Sean Clark yesterday, and I'm thinking maybe he was putting out that fire.
Well, I saw the video.
It's bad.
And let me tell you.
It's bad.
Bad.
So
I hate that whole situation.
Apparently what I've gathered from this, and again, I am close to the situation. I'm not trying to paint anything. Apparently people are going to the roster and just assuming that the player wearing number 12 his name is Sean Collins. That is not him. He was on the play. He was on the field, but it's camp. There's multiple guys wearing the same number, but it was not the guy who is on the roster as number 12. It is a different player. We don't know who that is yet. They are handling it internally.
Let me say this. He should be in trouble.
He should never play college football again, ever.
I agree.
Ever. And I would think he should be charged. Seahawks DK Metcalf did the exact same thing. Was caught live on TV on A to Z Sports in a camp fight. He ripped off a teammate's helmet and swung it at him like a club.
Unbelievable.
So, it's happening all over the place. Why are so many of these players resorting to this at this point? Nick Foles announced his retirement from the NFL at the age of 35. He was a journeyman. He was all over the place, but he won a Super Bowl with the Eagles against Tom Brady's Patriots.
Sure did.
So you know what? Fly, Eagle, fly. Nick Foles, you've earned your retirement.
Don't say that. That gives me good. I can take a shower now. Philadelphia.
Just announced Josh Allen will play in his preseason game on Saturday. So will Patrick Mahomes and other available Chiefs starters. I look at it, Cole, like scared money don't make money, and all these teams who are sitting the presumptive starters who need to be out there getting experience are scared. They're scared. The Panthers are scared of Bryce Young getting hurt. They're scared of a lot of starters getting hurt. Can't cost us anything. But no, man, if you want to make money, the best teams are putting their starters on the field in the preseason.
Yeah.
So how could you tell me, if you're Dave Canales, that the Chiefs and the Bills are idiots and they don't know what they're doing?
I could. I mean, I stand by it, but again, I'm not a head coach either. I don't get paid.
You are the guy that we talk about in the promo.
Yes,
Cole, the guy who says, Cheez-Its on my finger, and says, I can do that. I know better than those coaches making $8 million a year. Let's see. Finally, Katie Ledecky and Nick Mead have been chosen as flag bearers for the Olympic closing ceremonies for the United States. Katie Ledecky has 14 Olympic medals, 8 golds. Hell yeah, I'd say she's earned it.
That's impressive. That's really impressive. Back to the App State helmet thing.
Sure.
DK Metcalf as well. Mm-hmm. Why? And I think there was one incident, 5 years ago with Pittsburgh that.
Yeah, it was Mason Rudolph was the player who got hit, and it was I'm blanking on his name. Help us out, guys. Who was the player that ripped the helmet off?
Myles Garrett?
Myles Garrett. Yes.
Was it?
Yes, it was Myles Garrett.
That is come on. That should be, if you do that, I agree with you. You should be
lifetime ban.
What are you thinking? Ban. You throw a dude a helmet who has no helmet on, and you swing on him with the helmet. It just makes no sense at all. There's got to be repercussions. At the college level, though, how do you handle that if you're App State? That's tough. I know NFL is different because to me,
paid. For not to compare the two situations, but remember last week when Dabo Swinney was bemoaning all of the walk-ons potentially not having a place in college football. He says we need the walk-ons because we need to have a huge roster, and things will whittle down as we get closer to the season. I have no idea who this player was for App State. He would look like a defensive lineman. I have no idea if he was supposed to be an important piece of the offense, important piece of the defense this year. But you gotta remove that guy from the team. There's no way. He should be done. The NCAA should levy a lifetime ban. He should never play football again.
Well, the NCAA, to your point, that's exactly where I was going. The NCAA should step in and make an example of this guy. They should use this as an example of, if you ever stoop to this level, you are donezo.
Maybe that's ultimately what the NCAA should be, right? Have them be the enforcement and punishment arm of sports. Don't let them be the ones coming up with the rules, because they're going to do what's best for them. Yeah. That way you can at least have equal punishment across all of college football. I mean, I think whether it's FCS Division II or it's a Power 5 game, Power 4 game, a helmet gets swung as a weapon. Doesn't matter if the player who gets hit has a helmet on or not at the time. Instant expulsion. You're gone from the game. You will never, ever play. I mean, I would love for the NFL to step in as well and say, that happens. You're never playing for our league. Yeah. But we all know DJ Metcalf ain't going to get punished.
No, but it's a terrible look. It's hard to watch. It's just, there's no place for it. No place at all. Speaking of DK Metcalf, speaking of the NFL, there is NFL on TV tonight. Will I know any of the starters? No. Do I care? No. I'm watching. We'll talk about the 2 games tonight and what we expect from the 4 teams playing on this 8th day of August next. Well, we've waited. We've went through the March Madness, Diesel. We went through the April month of having the Masters and a few other college sporting events. And then we got through May, right? In May, we had some really good College World Series to talk about. June came around, NBA Finals. July, talking season, right? Nothing really going on. ACC Media Days, SEC Media Days. Well, guess what? We've made it. Today's August 8th.
Pickleball season.
And
yeah.
Well, that would throw a wrench in things, but the NFL is here and it starts tonight.
Yes.
Not regular season. It is preseason, but guess what? I don't care. When I get home, I'm turning on NFL Network, Diesel, and I'm going to watch the Panthers and the Patriots and see how this former Louisville quarterback does for the Panthers.
Man, it's like a Chuck Mangione song. It just feels so good.
It feels good. Jack Plummer is who we're going to get to watch tonight. So, again, who? Not the Owl, but Jack Plummer will get to start for the Panthers. We will not see Bryce Young. We'll see, I would say, very limited starters. But 2 games tonight, Panthers, Patriots at 7, and then also at 7 o'clock, not televised, is Lions, Giants.
That sucks to be y'all.
It does. The team that was in the NFC Championship last year. Not on TV.
Make it make sense. It's on the NFL Network. I don't get the NFL Network.
Oh, you don't?
Damn it. Because I'm going to have to go to the bar.
I'm pretty sure YouTube TV does, but let me verify that.
I hope you know that you'll be able to watch it.
I know. Here I am claiming that I'm going to watch it. Now you're making me second guessing.
Imagine getting your internet shut down for pirating a stream of a preseason game.
Well, it happens.
With none of the starters playing. God.
I'm pretty sure I get NFL.
Boss, I'm not coming into work tomorrow. I've been arrested for pirating preseason games with no starters.
Hey, and boss,
you have a problem.
And boss, coworker gave it to me. So we're both.
We need to find out if our boss has a login for NFL Network and see if we can just borrow it.
Absolutely.
Can we borrow those credentials?
I want to look at this though, Diesel. Panthers, Patriots, Lions, Giants. Of the 4, which of those teams have the most compelling storylines? Yesterday, we did our most compelling storylines, but of the 4 teams we'll see in action tonight, I do think there are some storylines that are compelling. Obviously, we follow the Panthers because they're right in our backyard, right? Even though they're not any good. Last year, the Carolina Panthers, as we all know, were a major disappointment.
You know what I do, Cole, with things in my backyard that I don't like?
What's that?
Chuck them over the fence.
Ooh. You chucking Dave Canales over the fence?
Not yet.
Okay, you're going to give him a chance.
Not yet. Somebody threw him into my backyard. I'm looking at it from out the window.
Yeah, give him a few.
Disapprovingly, I'm like, ugh. If I leave that there too long, it's going to kill the grass. I better go out there and do something about it.
Give him a few weeks.
Yeah.
See if you can just adjust and warm up to Dave. I think you will. I think you'll see better signs than Frank Wright. But of the 4 teams, the Carolina Panthers 1-5 in the NFC South, 2-15 overall. The only wins they had were against the Houston Texans. Don't know how they won that game. And the Falcons on December 17th, a high-scoring track meet affair. Diesel final score was 9-7.
Woo!
On December the 17th. And you're privileged enough to get to do the Panthers pregame shows. Hopefully, you'll have more to talk about this season because I know that last year had to be pretty rough. However, the Patriots, who the Panthers play tonight, are not – their boats –
either.
They're not good either. Their boats are not far from each other. Their boats are actually docked at the same inlet. What do I mean by that? Last year –
Or they run aground on the same sandbar.
4-13, not good for the New England Patriots. 4-13, 2-4 in the AFC East. Diesel. The only wins they had were over the Jets, Bills, Pittsburgh Steelers, and Denver Broncos. Which of these teams, just kind of off the cuff, because this is fascinating. Panthers tonight against the Patriots. Which of these teams in your mind has the better 2024? Because both are struggling.
Ugh.
Both have new coaches.
Yeah.
Both are trying to find a new identity. Both have young quarterbacks. Both have fan bases that are very, very impatient, even though the Panthers fan base hasn't had the same level of success and taste of success that the Patriots have. But there are a lot of similarities between these two organizations.
Yeah, what I want to see tonight, and I was thinking about this originally just from a Panthers perspective, but now you add the Patriots in there too, who are in a lot of the same boats. I need to see. I just need to see competence out of the coaching staffs. Can you make good decisions? Good use of timeouts, good use of the clock. Can you get plays in
Mhm.
in an efficient manner? I mean, all of those little things that can compound and screw up a game, screw up a drive, screw up a season. Those are the things that I really need to see from Dave Canales. I mean, we've seen him a lot of times in press conferences be a super super high energy guy. Does that translate to being sharp on the field? Being able to process a lot of information quickly as a head coach, or does he find himself being a little manic, a little out of his depth first time as a head coach? I mean, it doesn't matter if they lose these games. And ultimately, when you're playing the third and fourth string quarterbacks in these games, you're not getting a good sense of who you've got on the field.
Yeah.
And that whoever you trot out there tonight's not going to play probably at all this season. I'd be shocked if they did, if either of them did. So, just show me that you can make competent decisions in the scenarios that come up. That, head coaches who have been around the league for a long time, they've seen everything. But at one point, they were brand new coaches. They had to go through their growing pains as coaches and make bad decisions. Can you just look competent in those?
I don't think either team will show much tonight and the rest of the preseason. However, what I do find fascinating is with Gerard Mayo on the Patriots side of things, and we'll get to the Panthers because we've talked about the Panthers a lot, but on the Patriots side of things, Gerard Mayo in his first season is faced, in my opinion, with a very, very difficult decision. They know that they drafted a guy in Drake May from North Carolina that was a good quarterback. They also have Jacoby Brissett, Bailey Zappi, and guess who else? Joe Milton from Tennessee. You've got 4 quarterbacks on this roster and 4 quarterbacks that are pretty good. Like, there are teams that would take all 4 of those. And I think that something that's not being talked about enough is that Drake May did go to New England. You would think Bill Belichick, New England, the culture, you'd think that's a good place for him to go. But the more I think about it, the more I look at it, I don't think Drake May landed in a good spot. Jacoby Brissett, Bailey Zappi, neither one of them are great quarterbacks. Bailey Zappi's shown flashes. Ultimately, I think he'll get cut. Brissett's a guy that you can rely on at times. Gerard Mayo's been really high on Joe Milton. Joe Milton could really surprise some people. I just don't know that this was the best situation for Drake May. On the Panthers side, when we asked the question, which of these will have the better season, I'm very optimistic, Diesel. I'm very optimistic because normally, most of the time, we would say the Patriots will have the better season. However, you won 4 games last year in New England. The Panthers won 2, right? Not a big difference, but they did win 2 more games than you did. I do think that the Panthers have a chance in 2024 to have a better season than New England because they at least know what their quarterback situation is. It may not be the best with Bryce Young, but there's not a big circle of questions going around like there is in New England with 4 quarterbacks, and they don't really know who the best quarterback is.
Yeah, this feels like year number 1 for Bryce Young because he sucked last year and he's under a completely new system this year. I want to hear from you, Tolo. 71307. Start your text with keyword fan or message in on the stream, on Facebook, on YouTube, or on Twitter. Right now, who would you rather have as your starting quarterback? Bryce Young or Drake May? And that's all things being as they are in real life. A year older for Bryce Young, but he's a smaller guy. He's a slighter guy, right? He had a rough year in 2023. That's the only information we have on him as a starter in the NFL. We have a little more information on him in the NFL than we have on Drake May. So ultimately not much because he's under a whole new system.
I want to answer that from my perspective, but I want to read Wesley's comment first. Wesley says, unfortunately, the Patriots have the better season, in my opinion, answering the question on the Panthers versus Patriots and who has the better season in 2024. Wesley says, but boy, do I hope I'm wrong. Wesley, again, I think to reiterate what I just said, I think it could be a lot closer than you think. the Patriots have a lot of decisions with that quarterback, Drake May. Diesel, I'll start it off, and I may get pushback. If I am a Panthers fan, but I'm an unbiased fan right now. That's who I am right now. And I have to pick between Drake May and Bryce Young right now today. Guess what? I'm taking Bryce Young.
No way.
Taking Bryce Young.
No way. I'm taking Drake May. You got that bigger body. He's not a big dude by any means, but he's certainly taller than Bryce Young. You actually see over the line, right? We've seen touch from Drake May. We've seen him play big in big situations. It's not to say that Bryce Young didn't, obviously, but I think Drake May is just set up with his physical attributes to have a much longer, more successful NFL career. We don't know yet what he's going to be in the NFL, but we know what Bryce Young has been so far.
So the physical attributes, I hear you. And I'm not going to argue with you on the physical attributes because I don't love the physical attributes.
6'4", 225 for Drake May.
Right. And like thereof, physical attributes is probably a better way to put it for Bryce Young.
He's hobbit-sized.
He is. However, here's what I'm clinging to if I'm a Panthers fan, Diesel. And I really mean this. If I'm a Carolina Panthers fan, I am clinging to the hope of what I saw in the SEC at Alabama. Bryce Young was a really, really, really good quarterback. And again, the NFL's a different animal. The NFL's a different lady. I understand that. It is tough to win in the NFL. Everybody's big. Everybody's fast. Everybody's strong. I get that. However, I can't just throw out what he did at Alabama quite yet. Year two, if it goes sour, maybe I throw it out. But right now, after year one, I'm not giving up on Bryce Young. I'm not going to do it.
Live update for you. Team USA on a little bit of a comeback, 53-62 now with 5:11 to go in the third quarter. The lead is down to 9 for Serbia. Team USA on a little bit of that comeback there. LeBron has 10 points. Joel Embiid has 12. Steph Curry has 42 points in the game. The problem is Serbia's starting lineup is scoring a lot of points all over the court. Drew Holiday, 0 points in this game, man. He's letting USA down in this one. Something else I really want to see in this, by the way, text coming in. Texter says Bryce Young's rookie numbers are similar to Trevor Lawrence's rookie season. Okay. Next up, Joe Milton going to be their starter. Go Vols. That comes from Tyler B.
Could be.
I mean, as of right now, Jacoby Brissett is listed as the starter on that team. QB2, man, it's wild to me that Bailey Zappi is listed as QB3 on this team. Joe Milton could very well take that away. Do we think have we heard anything specific as far as who's starting for the Patriots tonight? Will it be Jacoby Brissett starting, or will he get a series for them?
We'll see Brissett and Zappi.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. But another thing I want to see, and I'm really intrigued about, is the running back situation for the Carolina Panthers. Dave Canales really wants to run the football. Obviously, we've talked ad nauseum over the past couple of weeks about if you can't run the football because you don't have a good offensive line and you only have one receiver that's reliable, guess what? You're going to have a hard time finding success. And one of the best ways that you can fix a weak offensive line and you can help out a receiving core that's not particularly great is being serviceable in the run game. And right now the Carolina Panthers have 7 running backs on the roster. And that doesn't include the rookie that they drafted this year out of, I believe, Texas, who's still dealing with a knee issue.
Jonathan Brooks.
Yes, that doesn't include Jonathan Brooks. So they've got 8 running backs on the roster. The Carolina Panthers are going to need a lot of help as far as running the ball this year. And if they can get it together, and even if they operate as running back by committee this year, they could save Bryce Young's life and give him a chance to actually throw the ball. Chuba Hubbard is running back 1, Jonathan Brooks, Miles Sanders, Raheem Blackshear. Miles Sanders has not really been the guy that we thought and hoped that he was going to be. Chuba Hubbard stepped up towards the end of last season. Can he continue that?
I want to go back to the text from the 934 that said Young's rookie numbers are similar to Trevor Lawrence's rookie season. I would say, texter, I would almost, and people may disagree with me here, but just like we threw out Trevor Lawrence's rookie season because of his coach or lack thereof in Urban Meyer, I would almost argue that you have to do the same thing with Bryce Young because Frank Wright was a disaster. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He was a terrible coach. It was a terrible hire. They had no identity offensively. I almost do think you have to throw it out and give Bryce this year, kind of like Diesel said a minute ago, as his first year and allow them to reset with a brand new coach, just like Lawrence did, because when Lawrence got a new coach, he looked a lot better. And I think that has a lot to do with it. Texter from the 349 says, as of right now, give me Bryce, but that opinion could change by week 6 as his measurables to me are a huge question. I agree with that. 828 says, I take Bryce in a heartbeat. Saban got the most out of him in the tough SEC, and he'll grow with the right coaching once again to be let me click on the text, pretty good quarterback, says Dave.
Yeah, but Drake May can become a better quarterback in the NFL. Bryce Young can't get any taller.
Yeah, I just don't know that I use the height thing. Like, I get that. I just don't know. The SEC, like, how far off is the SEC from the NFL?
I don't think you can ignore it. I mean,
no, I'm not. Especially
when you also think about it from the standpoint of durability. I mean, I'm not questioning Bryce Young's toughness. He got sacked 6,500 times last year.
A lot.
And he kept getting back up. I'm not questioning his toughness, but eventually, over the course of 3, 4, 5, 10 seasons in the NFL, those are the things that add up that end a football player's career early.
And I get it. I'm with you. I don't completely ignore the immeasurables. However, if he's in the right system, my point is I think they can somehow get past that. Drew Brees wasn't the tallest. Russell Wilson wasn't the tallest. They were both in really good systems with Sean Payton. And obviously Russell Wilson was in a good system with Pete Carroll. So
yeah, but Russell Wilson is annoying AF. He's the dude who was running sprints up and down the airplane aisles on the flight to Europe.
Wesley on the stream says, can his voice get deeper?
Hey
Talk
guys,
about that.
This is Bryce Young, quarterback of the Carolina Panthers.
His voice is very, very.
I mean, if he entered a Michael Jackson voice impersonation contest, he would win.
He probably would. But it's fascinating.
Think about my baby. It don't matter if you're black or white.
Texter says 618, Bryce Young was throwing to wide open receivers on the most talented team I've ever seen in college football. Listen, Alabama was very, very good. There's no doubt. But Bryce Young didn't just throw the ball to open receivers, and that's all he did. A quarterback in the SEC that's as good as Bryce Young, you have to give them a lot of credit because he was phenomenal, and he had a really good year. Yeah, they were stacked. I'm not denying that. I'm just saying at the end of the day, he was really good in college, and I'm banking on at some point. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm banking on at some point that coming back in the NFL.
It's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. When we come back, Cole will go back to the college ranks and look at Prime. And I'm going to tell you why this year is the year that Deion Sanders has to pop, or we're over it. We're just over it. That's next on the Fan Upstate.
844 fan phone. This is Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson.
If Deion Sanders doesn't do big things in 2024, does it feel like the college football world's going to start getting tired of his shtick? You know, the brash, I'm bringing my luggage and it's Louis stuff. Like at some point, don't you actually have to producing results? If not, you're just full of you know what. You're just spouting, right? You're just talking into the ether and it's not connecting with anything. I feel like that's where Colorado is in the 2024 season. And it's going to be really tough for the college football world to keep caring about Deion Sanders after this year. This is the guy who said, I'm bringing the best of the best that I could possibly bring. And no disrespect, he is crushing it in the transfer portal. Number 1 portal class in the Big 12 in 2024. He's still able to get dudes via his personality and via the vision he's selling. But eventually, results have to come. And when you talk as much trash as Deion did, you're on a shorter leash.
It's a fascinating point because you do have to win. However, I do look at it from the standpoint, Diesel, of him being at a place like Colorado. And I'm not making excuses for him, but I don't know that you could have put Deion in a harder place to win. What, he go 4 and I think he won 4 games, 4 and 8 last year.
Looked good to start the season. Yeah. Everybody was like, "Oh my God!"
Started off like a firecracker, right? Then that little fuse just fizzled out like that firecracker does. I'll say this: you're right. He's got to win. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. If he were not able to get the talent there, I think that would be a bigger red flag. To your point, though, he has gotten the talent there.
Well, he's getting the talent through the portal. I said that they got the number 1 Big 12 portal class this year. Guess where they are in high school recruiting?
Oh, let me guess. Ooh.
It starts with an L and ends with ast.
Are they in the conference?
Last.
They're last in the conference?
Last in the conference in 2024 high school recruiting class. Guess where they are for the 2025 recruiting class?
Don't say last.
Last.
You're kidding.
Last.
Wow. So
high school kids are not signing up for this BS.
They're full Norvell. They're full Florida State in terms of loading up on the portal class. So what's fascinating about that is here's what we have to do. We have to give him, last year was his first year. In my opinion, we have to give Deion this year and one more year. We don't realistically, we don't look at Colorado as a contender. You and I don't. I don't think anybody does. However, there's a benchmark somewhere, Diesel, that I believe, and I probably think that you would believe that Deion needs to reach in order for you and I to both say, okay, he's done a great job. Now he can go coach Florida State, right? Now he can go coach somewhere else. There's a benchmark. That benchmark isn't getting into the playoff. Colorado's not getting into the playoff with Deion Sanders or Bob, Druck. It doesn't matter who's coaching. They're not sniffing the playoff. They have a tough conference as well, especially at the top half. But you've got to set a realistic benchmark for Deion. He is good enough to get it done. I just don't know that you'll ever see him take Colorado to the promised land.
No. I seem to remember, though, Deion Sanders saying things like, I want to be here at Colorado for a long time. Coaches say things like that all the time, right? But if Norvell moves on and Florida State comes calling, he's gone. And he's going to take his Louis with him, right? He's going to do – I mean, it almost feels like he's auditioning for the Florida State job. I'm going to do everything Mike Norvell does, and just to show that I can keep things rocking on the same level that Norvell does if you bring me in, right? I mean, it's kind of like the way Kalen DeBoer has been brought in to replace Nick Saban, and he's done basically everything Nick Saban has done and been elite everywhere he's been. Well, this is the transfer portal era version of that, where he's saying, hey, I've done everything at Colorado the way Mike Norvell does things at Florida State. He leaves, you bring me right in, and we can hit the ground running. But what does he have to do to prove to Florida State, which is not Colorado, right? Which is a school that expects you to win.
Yeah.
They don't hope that you win. See, Colorado hopes that Deion wins. Deion is polishing up his resume at Colorado. And I fully believe that if Deion Sanders gets Colorado to an 8-win season, probably not going to be this year, but if it's next year, if he gets them to 8-win seasons, then the college football world, of course, turns this into, look how amazing he is as a coach. He's taken that dumpster fire of a program to an 8-win season. They won a bowl game. How lucky day. Yeah. This is fantastic. But that's my point here, is if he can't get to a winning season this year, just 6. If he can't get to 6, I think the college football world starts looking at him like, oh, he's a big fat phony. I mean, I certainly would. I mean, you can't talk all that trash and not be able to back it up. Imagine Mike Tyson with all the trash talking he did, having a glass jaw.
Yeah.
The world would have forgotten about him in the 1980s.
So let me say this. I want to get to the Colorado schedule because I do think I do agree with you on 6 wins. He needs to get to 6. But let me first say, on the topic of portal for Deion, we, not just you and I, but the media in general, the media in a whole, are very critical of Dabo for not adjusting and adapting to the portal. I do think we have to bring the same energy and praise Deion for adjusting and being, I don't want to say adjusting, but being relevant in the new landscape of college football, because we're asking Dabo to be involved in the portal. And guess what? Deion is 100% involved in the portal. To your point, Diesel, he's 100% involved in the portal, and it looks as if he's 0% involved in organic recruits. We'll see if that will work. I think he has a talent there. However, going up against the talent that he has to go up against, he's going to need some really big studs, right? However, my point is Deion is doing what it takes. I don't know. And I'm glad you brought that up with their organic recruiting class. I don't know that you'll ever be able to recruit organically to Colorado.
Well, I disagree there because the Big 12 is the most wide open conference in college football. There's a lot of, there's like 6 or 7 teams, I think, that could legitimately challenge, probably 3 that could go and win it, but 6 or 7 that could challenge for the Big 12 championship game. I don't think there's anybody so elite in that conference anymore. Now that Texas and Oklahoma are gone, it's a free-for-all, man. It is literally the wild, wild west. Anybody could step up and win this thing. And if you've got, this is setting up to be Deion's best shot to take a big step this year. You don't have the Longhorns with their boot on the throat. You don't have the Sooners with the boot on the throat. So I think, that's 2 built-in losses if they scheduled them this year. So I just think that Deion's got to take a jump this year, or we start getting tired of his shtick. Does that mean that Colorado would fire him? No, I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But that to me starts cooling off the narrative that Deion is this savant in the new era who can do things that Lane Kiffin is doing at Ole Miss, who can do what Mike Norvell is doing at Florida State, but do it better because he's doing it at a place that has no tradition whatsoever.
And listen, I don't push back on that. Maybe it's our fault. Maybe it's the media's fault last year for hyping Deion up to be some god that took over Colorado. When they went 3-0, you turned the TV on. What was all you saw? We talked about it was Colorado, prime, Deion.
He does look good in a cowboy hat, though. I'll give him that.
He does. You're right on that. But I'll say, the media hyped him up so much last year, it's going to make it tough when he does fail. When Dan Lanning whooped his you-know-what in week 4, that train came to a quick halt, right?
Well, here's my biggest thing with them going into next year, Cole, is Shedur's gone. His son is gone.
Yeah.
You've actually got to go recruit good quarterbacks and tell me that you can find somebody who you're not blood related to, who you can teach your system and the way you want things done. Now he actually has to go be a football coach, not just a coach coaching his sons, who he's known their entire lives, who he knows inside and out. Now you actually have to go and take somebody who has his own way of doing things, who has his own mindset, who has his, reasons to push back against authority because he's a coach, and that's just what these kids do. Now he's got to do it with kids who are not his sons.
It is going to be fascinating. I don't know, though, that I believe, and I know we got to run in a minute because we have a guest coming up next. I don't know that I believe Diesel, he'll be there next year. I really don't.
Wow.
I just don't know.
Wow.
I'm not
As in
buying.
hired somewhere else
Yeah.
or fired?
Hired somewhere else.
Oh, gosh.
I'm not buying I love Colorado and I want to be here. Nobody loves -2 degrees. Nobody loves that. I mean, look, we'll get back to it later in the show because I want to get back to the 6 games because I agree with you. 6 is a good measurable. But we've got to find 6, and that might be a little tougher.
I think they lose in week 1, honestly.
Well, we talked. I mean,
I think North Dakota State's going to come in there and kick their ass, embarrass them.
They could. They very well could. But again, that's one of those games that you can't lose if you're Deion, because to your point, he's got to show up. He talks the talk. He's got to walk the walk.
Live update: Team USA down 2, 84-82 with 4 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
Reggie Chapman Jr., sports anchor at 11 Alive News in Atlanta. He covers the Hawks, Falcons, Braves, Georgia, everything. Georgia Tech, you name it, he covers it. He'll join us next. It is time to talk a little Falcons, Braves, Georgia Bulldogs, Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. He does it all. He's Reggie Chapman Jr., sports anchor, reporter at 11 Alive News in Atlanta. Good friend of the show. Reggie, hope you're well, man. Let's get it started. You're down there in Atlanta. We were at ACC Media Days. Can you somehow hype me and our audience up for Georgia Tech football in 2024, that they'll be able to make some kind of run in the ACC?
Well, look, I'll tell you. Well, first off, thanks for having me back on the show, guys. Georgia Tech, man. There's not been this much excitement around this program in a little while. I mean, I think what Brent Key has been doing with this program, he's set them up in a way to where it's not just talk anymore. I think when I got here back in 2021, that was Jeff Collins was here. And I always have the running joke about how when he had his first press conference, it felt like he was, and I didn't know very much about Georgia Tech. He made me feel like they was going to win the ACC, and then went out there and went 3-7 or whatever they did for the next 2 years before he was eventually fired. I think what Brett Key's been building here is not a lot of talk. It's a lot of action. He's brought in he's making moves within his staff. He's bringing in new players. They're a lot more physical. And look, I think the biggest change they have is they finally have a quarterback under center that can actually handle business. I'm sure you guys got a chance to learn a bit more about Haynes King while he was out there at ACC Media Days. And I'll tell you, man, he is a quarterback that brings a lot of leadership. He can throw the ball really well. And then if it's any indication as well, Georgia Tech plays really well on College Football 25. I got my first one with them a couple weeks ago. So, look, I'm a big fan as well now as well.
Reggie Chapman Jr., sports anchor at 11 Alive News in Atlanta. Reggie, any buzz, any juice about the intercity matchup with Georgia State? I understand Georgia State not expected to be good, not a lot of history there, but, man, this is one of those ones that feels like if you're going to be taken seriously, even in your own city, you got to handle business against the Panthers.
That one you have to get done, and for multiple reasons. I mean, Georgia State is in a state of transition as well. I mean, Del McGee joins that program after moving from Georgia as the running backs coach out there, and he's the first-year head coach. He got hired in February after the old head coach, Sean Elliott, just kind of left very quickly in the middle of the year. So, look, that team is trying to figure things out. He had to build his staff, and he had to try and figure out what players he's going to have, and that's a program that Georgia Tech is going to have to beat in week 2. But you can tell, look, at this point, they're focused right now on just getting ready for this first match as they head across the pond to play in Ireland against Florida State.
It's fascinating, really fascinating game across the pond, as you said. Reggie Chapman Jr., sports anchor at 11 Alive News in Atlanta, good friend of the show. Appreciate you hopping on with us for a few minutes. It's fascinating when you look at a team in Atlanta that usually this time of year, Reggie, we're really excited to talk about. However, Diesel and I have talked about it many times in the past few weeks. It's just kind of becoming something that is, like that old grandma that nobody likes. Nobody really wants to talk about that old grandma because she's close to death. She's going to die here in a few weeks. And I'm getting really dark. I'm getting dark, but I'm being honest. Reggie, I'm being honest. The Atlanta Braves, I'm done with them. I'm a Braves fan, diehard Braves fan. I'm just sick and tired of it. Go ahead and end the season for me, and let's get ready for 2025. Am I wrong?
Look, the way that you described that was pretty wild, but I will say this. I totally understand how you're feeling, man. I think that this was maybe the most important stretch of the season, right? The Phillies, who have been very good all season long, go on their longest losing streak of the year. You managed to bring back the deficit to 5 games in the division. There's all this talk from Brian Stitcher saying, look, we still want to win the division. And you're starting to feel good about it. And despite all the injuries, you think, hey, the bats are starting to click, guys are starting to play, and then they do what they really should not have done. I mean, that Marlins series, losing those last 2 games was really just unacceptable for a team that just sold at the end of the trade deadline. And then they've just been embarrassed at home. And look, just put into perspective, right? They had a 231 game streak of without being shut out at home at Truist Park, right? They've been shut out twice in this series in the last 3 days. And then today they gave up 1 million runs. I mean, it's this what is happening right now for the Braves is just unacceptable. And I can understand why you say it's over. Look, they're still in a position right now to hypothetically still make the postseason if they can just finish with some semblance of being strong. And if you're this team, you take that at least, because I think that people would absolutely riot if you don't make the postseason anyway.
Reggie, are fans, as far as turnout goes at Atlanta Braves games, are they voicing their displeasure by not showing up? I mean, if it's me and I'm thinking, hey, do I really want to drive 2.5, 3 hours down to Atlanta to watch a team that's probably going to crap the bed against a crappy team? Why should I even bother? Why should I go buy tickets? That might be the best way to gauge how fans feel about this team right now. Are they still showing out for them?
Look, I don't think it's become that big of an issue yet. I think, look, if you look at somehow how the crowd looked today, it was like a 12:35 first pitch in the middle of the summer here. It's really hot in Atlanta. That's no secret at all. So, I mean, if anything, for today, that was the issue. But I think over the last week here, I think our biggest gauge will be when they come back from this road trip out west, because at least this last 5 games, you're thinking, hey, at a certain point, this is our biggest games of the year if we really want to make a dent into the Phillies. And I think we'll really know truly how people feel when they come back. But overall, I think it's a lot of negativity on social media and Twitter. Guys are all over the Braves. I saw a tweet today that said, look, man, I don't have to be upset about the Braves today because I was at work like I should be. Like, it's gotten to that point, because that same person 2 weeks ago would have been tweeting home run highlights and talking about how Austin Riley was the best player he's ever seen. So it's a real negative vibe right now, and they're going to have to do something to try and turn things around.
They've allowed 41 runs, Reggie, in their last 4 games. And by the way, one thing you'll notice coming on with us more and more, I have no filter. I just, I may upset people with that no filter comment, but that's the way I feel. And you know what? The Braves fans, I know that injuries have been a bugaboo this year. There's no doubting that. There's no escaping and going around the injury conversation. I get that. But when you look at this team, the way that they've played with the guys that they've had on the roster that are healthy, giving up 41 runs in the past 4, that's embarrassing. What do you, as someone who covers it a lot closer than I do, attribute this just embarrassing season to?
Well, look, I mean, I think the biggest thing is the injuries. But look, it's such a big difference from what the season was a season ago, right? I think that last year you had good pitching, but the hitting was just unbelievable, right? Record-setting pace. This year, it's been the pitching that's kept you alive, right? Despite all the injuries, you lose Spencer Strider at the beginning of the year, you get an unbelievable year right now. Lopez, Max Fried is pitching like, hey, you probably should have given me that contract a little bit earlier. And boy, did anybody expect what we expected from Chris Sale? Unbelievable what he's been able to do for this Braves organization this year. But when you look at the last little stretch here, even Chris Sale isn't pitching well, right? And you're throwing out a bunch of, I mean, it feels like every single week or every single day I check the Braves Twitter account and it's a new person being sent down and a new person being brought up. Somebody's on the IL, somebody's being brought up. We've seen so many new rookies this year. It's been unbelievable. Spencer Schwellenbach's been a really, really nice story, but it's incredible that it's had to be to that point where we're looking at a rookie like Spencer Schwellenbach, who you just hope continues to keep us alive. And I say us. When I say us, I'm talking about Braves fans here in Atlanta. So I don't know, man. It's not good. The injuries are the biggest part, but I think at the end of the day, the hitters that have been on the roster have just not figured it out.
Live update for you, Reggie, and for all of our listeners. Team USA final 95-91 over Serbia. They retook the lead there with about 3 minutes to go in the game. Steph Curry hit some clutch free throws down the line to get it done. We've made a lot about the Panthers making the decision to not play Bryce Young and a majority of the starters for their preseason game tonight. What's Raheem Morris's philosophy about playing starters in the preseason? A lot of teams don't like doing that these days. And what are they going to specifically do tomorrow night against the Dolphins?
I haven't heard anything specifically as of yet. Of course, they're all the way out in Miami and have been for this entire week. Been hearing from Kirk Cousins, and I'm sure, look, Kirk Cousins coming off of this injury, it remains to be seen if how many snaps will actually get. I think what really people are excited about is being able to see guys like Michael Penix go out there and play. I think just overall, if you're the Falcons organization, especially Raheem Morris, they've been really, really excited with the fact that their defense has been able to go up this week against an offense that Mike McDaniels is running, right? I mean, Tua has obviously been very, very good the last couple of years. I mean, Tyreek Hill, the number one ranked player as voted by the NFL players this last year. And the Falcons organization, every report I've read from out there in Miami says that the defense has held together at least better than they have in the past. And so, look, I think that if anything, it remains to be seen who we'll actually see on the field. But look, people are excited for Mike Penix, and if the defense can show any kinds of life against that offense, you got to feel pretty good.
Reggie Chapman Jr. joining us on the program of 11 Alive News in Atlanta. Reggie, we've played a game. I started this game on Monday with Diesel and I have left it up to Diesel on how long this game lasts. The game is called Carson Beck versus. So every single day, I give Diesel a new quarterback to go head-to-head against Carson Beck. Today, I gave him Quinn Ewers, and needless to say, the game still lives on to tomorrow. Are there, in your mind, any quarterbacks in college football in 2024 that you would take over Carson Beck?
No.
Wow.
That's the simple answer. Look, man, I think there's a lot of good players in college football. I think that Jalen Milroe, I think, just from what I've seen online and just from the reports, I think he's going to take another step this year. Look, if he turns into a Sunday quarterback after how he performs this year and he continues to run how he's been doing, that could be interesting. But, boy, Carson Beck probably could have been in the league after this last year. I mean, the only reason he's back is because they lost the game. You know what I mean? So, look, I think Carson Beck has all the tools to be the best quarterback in college football. He's accurate. He makes good decisions. The team, when you go up and talk to them at practice, they are leaning on him and his leadership. And he's grown into be, and he's never had issues with confidence. People ask Kirby Smart about confidence all the time with Carson Beck, and he's never been lacking confidence, but now he's got the confidence of knowing that he's been through this all before. Carson Beck's the best quarterback in college football this year. I have no real reason to believe that they can't go out and make another run at a national title again this year. The only issue is for this team is that they actually have a real schedule. Look, I've never been quiet about the idea that I think that Georgia's schedule, while they play who's in front of them, as somebody that grew up watching LSU football in the SEC West, I've never been really super impressed with the SEC East. And so when Georgia runs through it, it's a little bit different this year. Of course, you got to go on the road. You got to see Alabama. You got to go on the road to see Texas. Those are going to be a whole lot of fun. It's going to be the most fun season covering Georgia, I think, in a long time.
You call it a real schedule. I think Georgia fans are probably calling it a horror story because of just the sheer number of top 10 teams they have to face. By the way, all 3 top 10 opponents are on the road at Alabama, at Texas, at Ole Miss. A question for you here for our local listeners here, Reggie. Is there any chance that Clemson can keep it within the spread against Georgia, or do you see this just being a flat-out, old-fashioned Georgia beatdown?
I feel like it's going to be an old-fashioned Georgia beatdown, and it's not for any real reason other than what Clemson's got going on. I think that they've got some things to figure out from what I've read. I think this another year for Cade Klubnik. He's got to try and wait and just be a better QB at this point. But look, Georgia's got so many pieces coming back, man. I think you even lose a guy like Ra Thomas, who of course got arrested for the second time in his time at Georgia. You lose him. And this wide receiver room still stacked. You got a running back in Trevor Etienne who comes from Florida, who's going to be an absolute star. And Carson Beck's the best quarterback in college football. And of course, it's that same Georgia defense. And look, they don't like losing here at home, here in Atlanta. I mean, it's the state of Georgia. It's going to be absolutely packed. This is going to be an absolute scene. And I just hope that, look, Clemson fans are going to have to show out and be loud if they wanted to keep it close.
Reggie, great stuff, man. We always appreciate you hopping on. You do an incredible job. We'll hope to talk to you again soon.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Absolutely. That's Reggie Chapman Jr. Really good stuff there, Diesel. A lot to get to, and I'm sure we'll have to come back and get our thoughts and reaction on that.
Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate his time, taking some time with us on the show today. When we come back, it's time for you and I to fight about it. We'll put up our Dukes, go toe-to-toe on the 5 o'clock fight. That's next.
Perfect. So you can run that up a little bit. And
We have football back tonight. Carolina Panthers taking on the New England Patriots at 7. They'll be on the road at New England. Basically, none of the starters are going to play in this game for the Carolina Panthers. I think they should. Cole says, nah, man, keep those guys out. Keep them safe. I say, what's the point in even having a preseason if you're not going to let the starters get any reps at all? See, we're fighting about things all the time, even if we're not in the 5 o'clock fight. Well, that's where we happen to be right now at the moment. It is time for the 5 o'clock fight. Here's when we fight about it. Let's get it on.
Now just let that play.
3 topics, 1 winner. It's the 5 o'clock fight on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson on the Fan Upstate.
And how this works, we have 3 topics about life and sports. Cole and I fight about it. We cannot agree. We must disagree. We must come to fisticuffs. You, the Tolos, tell us who wins each round of the 5 o'clock fight by texting in 71307. Start your text with keyword fan, or you can message in on the stream, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube. Just search for the Fan Upstate. Let's get started with round number 1. We're seeing it next year, Cole. Major League Baseball coming to Bristol Motor Speedway. Major League Baseball games played in NASCAR tracks. Love it or hate it?
This is fascinating. I do not know if the Reds and the Braves next year in 2025, when they play at Bristol, I don't know how I will feel after the fact. But right now, you're asking me on August 8th, 2024, I absolutely hate it. I don't want this to become something that's of normal. I don't understand the point of it. Diesel, do not even understand who this benefits. Does it benefit baseball? How? Does it benefit NASCAR? How? I'm all for getting different eyeballs on different sports. I just struggle because I did a sports spin about this yesterday. I struggle to understand who this benefits when talking about playing a Braves game at Bristol. Help me understand here. As of right now, I hate it.
I'll tell you who it benefits. It benefits the game of baseball. It gets people paying attention to baseball. I mean, what do we talk about across all these sports? We see Jake Paul fighting 90-year-old fighters because people pay attention to it, right? We have become a culture of people who don't pay attention to something unless it's a massive spectacle, right? We're all so buried in our own lives. We're going to tune in just to see the largest, highest attended baseball game ever. It's going to be weird. You're not going to be able to see anything if you go buy tickets to this thing, but who cares, right? It's fascinating because it's in a weird venue. It's something we don't do normally with this sport. I mean, I have no idea what the configuration is going to be. Are they going to sell the entire track? Are they going to put home plate right in the middle of the infield? Are they going to cram it way up against one of the turns? We don't know yet at this point. Do they think what does Bristol hold? Like 150,000 people or something like
I
that?
don't know if it holds that many.
It's enormous.
But I would think that home plate, because the outfield's so big, I would think that home plate would have to be tucked up in a corner somewhere. Because
I mean, they could put it dead in the center of the 2 turns. And I'm just an idiot who can't fathom the dimensions of a baseball stadium being stuck into
no, I'm with you. It's
Bristol. Capacity for Bristol Motor Speedway is 150,000 people. So what is the largest Major League Baseball stadium?
What do they hold in terms of which one holds the most?
Yeah, that would be the Dodgers, that holds 56,000 people.
So, wow.
So they'd be tripling.
Yeah.
Depending on exactly how they configure this thing. Look, I mean, we saw it with Tennessee, Virginia Tech when they played at Bristol. You couldn't see anything from some of these seats, but you went because it's a spectacle. People pay attention again because it's a spectacle. People watched the what were they calling it? The Field of Dreams game because it's a spectacle, right? That's what we pay attention to these days. And baseball's got to do whatever it takes, even if that means taking away a home game from one of these teams. You play it in a venue that makes people pay attention. And I think then hopefully you get a great baseball game.
I'm intrigued. I just don't like it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say right now, again, subject to change my mind. But right now, big fat no Braves playing in Bristol. Are you kidding me?
I love it. Here we go with round number 2.
Round 2. Fight.
Not talking about the restaurants, Cole, that give you a lot of options when it comes to hot sauces, but most of the time when you go to a restaurant and you ask for hot sauce, they're going to bring you one of two things: Texas Pete or Tabasco.
Yeah.
The question is, what is the GOAT normal everyday restaurant hot sauce? Texas Pete or Tabasco?
This one might be the toughest 5 o'clock fight we've ever had. Ever. I'm going Texas Pete.
Really?
I'm going Texas Pete.
Okay.
I like Texas Pete. And again, here's what's bad about it. I'm not a hot sauce connoisseur. I don't know that I could tell the difference between the two. I'd like to hope that I could, but when you mix it in with food, I don't know that I could. Texas Pete, for whatever reason, I think I just grew up with it, and it's what I'm used to. So give me Texas Pete all day long.
Texas Pete's got that sort of a brighter, almost like highly acidic, like a lemon juicy type acidity to it. Not saying that it has lemon juice in it. I'm just saying it's got that sort of I don't know what the word for it is, but just sort of whatever that acidity is. But Tabasco's got some actual heat to it, right? It's got that salty, mean, kick your mama kind of bitterness to it. And that's what I like about it. Like I want something that's going to actually give me some heat, not something that's just going to add a little bit of vinegar to it.
Yeah.
Like a little bit of,
Do you think you could tell the difference between the two if I had it?
100%.
Really?
100%.
I think we need to do
blind
that.
taste test. I mean, I haven't had either one of those. We're at Cholula House, as a matter of fact. When we're eating breakfast, I put Cholula on everything.
I want to, before you leave for vacation, which would be, I have to do it tomorrow.
Yeah, we have to do it tomorrow.
I want to see if that
blind taste test.
Now, I think it would be easier if you if you just had the sauces side by side. I think you could tell. But like, what do you mix sauce with? What you mix sauce with? Hot sauce with beans or anything like that, or
yeah,
whatever you mix it with.
I mean, I haven't had either one in probably weeks at least, so the flavors are not fresh on my mind.
I had a lot last week in Nicaragua. I had a lot of hot sauces.
Okay,
and I love hot sauce.
I do too. I don't normally reach for Texas Pete or Tabasco, but if I have the choice, I'm going for Tabasco. Come on, man.
Tabasco over Texas.
I'm gonna
get tomorrow. I'm gonna show up with both.
There you go. And see if you can put them in jars that don't have the label on it.
Yeah.
You may have to like mark the bottom of them like P for Texas Pete, T for Tabasco.
Be a good
so
test for Diesel.
That would be really interesting. That'd be really interesting. Okay, there you go. That's 2 rounds of the 5 o'clock fight. If you are leaning, if one of us wins one round, one of us wins the other round. Let's break the tie with the final round.
Final round. Fight.
Very simple question, Cole. Blondes or brunettes?
Oh, this is an easy answer.
Blondes or brunettes?
There's no thinking about this one. You know how a great interviewer, when you ask a question, they just bam, Dabo can just fire those facts that you and I have no idea how he knows and keeps in his brain. Is bam, blondes. There's no doubt about it.
Really?
Oh yeah, blondes are far superior. Now listen, I don't want to offend anybody here, but I'm going to, because as you know, last segment I don't have a filter. They're dumb.
Wow.
But
promo. I don't mean to offend anybody, but blondes are dumb.
I mean, everybody knows. Cole Bryson said that, by the way, not Diesel, just so we're clear. Blondes, even though they're dumb, blondes are way better than brunettes, right?
Are you lady Tolos, going to take that from Cole Bryson? 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. Call us at 844-326-3663.
Dying grandmas and dumb blondes. That's bad.
Just so you know, our boss's wife is blonde.
Well,
and
sorry.
you painted me into a corner because my wife is blonde.
Oh, no. Sorry.
But good news for me is she's a sandy blonde. There's blonde and there's brown mixed in there.
That's a good.
I'm going to tell you, man, like when you have one, you kind of want the other. And I just find myself these days just into the tall, dark, and smoky. Give me the dark hair, the dark eyeliner. There's just something sexy about it. That no matter who you're talking about, a blonde cannot pull that look off.
If you asked her to change hair color, would she do it?
No, she would not do that. No, she would not do that. Now, I did have an ex a long time ago who used to change her hair color back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I found myself when she would dye it blonde to be like, oh, God, I really kind of miss the brunette. And then when she would dye it dark, I'd be like, I kind of miss the blonde.
Yeah.
Yeah, she got mad at me. She did not like it when I asked her to do that. No.
She changed her hair color more than Diesel changed his underwear. That's what's happened.
That's true. That's true. I mean, can you think like who's like a really hot female like brunette actress right now? Just name one.
Well, my female actress crush has always been Jennifer Aniston, and she's blonde. She's blonde, but she's kind of going
It's like okay. Here's a good example: Megan Fox or Anne Hathaway. I've never been that keen on Anne Hathaway, but Natalie Portman, Mila Kunis, Kate Beckinsale, that type right there.
Yeah.
Like, do you really think that like somebody like Margot Robbie could pull off the dark hair look the way that they do? No, there's just a sexiness there that blondes can't pull off.
Well, once you have a picture in your head of somebody with that hair color, it's hard to adjust to them being. I think it's hard, especially for actresses or somebody that's famous, for us to adjust to them having a different color of hair. But blondes, I think I swipe right on more.
Yeah. Who was the actress that played Black Widow? Blanking on her name. She's married to Colin Jost.
You're asking the wrong person.
You asked me at this exact.
Ben, do you know?
Scarlett Johansson. Scarlett Johansson. She's changed her hair color like 5 times over she's been in all these Avengers movies. She was a redhead at the beginning, and then she went brunette, then she went blonde. So she's been all over the place.
By the way,
there's a great example that you can figure out which one you think you like the best.
For those that heard me say Ben is training on the board today, doing a great job. So if you didn't know who Ben was, welcome Ben. Ben's killing it. Good job, Ben. Didn't know who Scarlett Johansson was.
There you go. That is our 5 o'clock fight. To recap, round number 1, MLB games at NASCAR tracks. Love it or hate it. Cole hates it. I say I love it. Round 2, what is the best average restaurant hot sauce? Texas Pete or Tabasco? Cole's going Texas Pete. I say Tabasco. And in the final round, blondes or brunettes? Cole says blondes are dumb, but he thinks they're hotter. I say brunettes because I like the dark and sexy and smoky look. What say you? Here's your chance to give me your votes at 71307. Start your text with keyword fan or message in on the stream. And if you want to suggest a 5 o'clock fight, here's how you do it.
What do you want Diesel and Co Bryson to fight about next?
If you've got an ass, I'll kick it.
Submit your topics to diesel@thefanupstate.com. Subject line, fight on the Fan Upstate.
The text line always outpaces the stream comments, so we're going to give these a couple of seconds to get in.
I think it's the delay. You think so?
Probably, yeah, probably. Zfink 2831 says Diesel sweeps the 5 o'clock fight. Appreciate you. Z-Fink, he's a new Tolo.
What is that about?
Z-Fink, how did you find us? That's what we'd love to know, because we've been charging our Tolos with the task of bringing in 2 new Tolos each and every day. Z-Fink, how'd you find us? Or have we seen you before? Maybe it's been a while.
Maybe
it's been a while since you've been in here.
But appreciate you being here, Z.
Madcraft says Diesel wins round 1. He's with me on the Major League Baseball games at NASCAR tracks. He says Cole wins round 2. He is a he is a Texas Pete fan, and he says Diesel wins round 3. He's going with me on the brunettes. He goes, although I'd go Frank's hot sauce and a wild redhead.
Wild card redhead. We didn't bring that up. How'd that not get brought up?
Yeah. Well, I mean, usually we fight between 2 different options. Occasionally we'll throw in the third. I mean, if we start adding redheads, if we start putting, gingers with no souls into this contest, we got to start putting girls who color the kickers. What?
Kicker. You don't remember the I'll tell you during the break.
I was going to say, then we got to start adding in ladies who dye their hair pink and blue and green and all these other options. So I just decided to keep it simple. Let's see.
Wesley needs one more quick recap. Diesel.
Wesley needs a quick recap. I will here. Yeah, Wesley. So,
1 second.
Major League Baseball games at NASCAR tracks. Love it or hate it. I said love it. Cole hates it. What is the go-to like average restaurant hot sauce? The ones that don't give you a whole lot of options. Texas Pete versus Tabasco. Cole went Texas Pete. I went Tabasco. And then the final round, blondes versus brunettes. Cole went blondes. I went brunettes.
I have a question.
Yes.
For you as well as the Tolos, I want to keep it fair. I'm going to bring tomorrow Tabasco and Texas Pete. I don't believe that Diesel can tell the two. What food, though? Should it be a food taste with the hot sauce or just straight up fingering the hot sauce?
If you don't be bringing like oysters or something. I'm not gonna do that.
I'm not oysters.
I'm not gonna do that.
I wouldn't have the
oysters are gross. I want to actually taste the hot sauce. If you just put it on a spoon, or I mean, you could do it simply. Put it on, yeah. So I was gonna say saltine cracker.
There we go.
Let's see here.
Wit on a cracker, dude.
Venisette. Love it. Thank you, Wit, for being in here. He says round 1, Cole. Who needs baseball? He says round 2, Cole. Round 3, Diesel. Says Cole wins, but we'll need a bodyguard after that.
That's
blonde
true.
statement.
That's a fact, Whit. I've got to tame my tongue a little bit better. The no filter Cole sometimes can get me in trouble. I haven't got an email from HR yet, though, so we're good.
Wesley says, okay, Cole, Diesel, Cole. Come on. What? Now I'm regretting even reading you the
thank you,
I
Wesley.
Recap for
my
you.
guy.
Not for that. Not if I'm going to take the L.
That's great.
Wesley also asked, can we do recaps at the end for those? Oh, excuse me, not that one. Russell says, I'm not sure if this has been discussed or not, but NFL preseason games, yay or nay? I say nay if you're not even gonna put your starters out there. Which explain to me why the teams who win games put their starters out in preseason, but teams that don't sniff wins are the ones holding their starters back.
I don't think there's anything. I don't think so. I don't think there's anything to it. I'll lean with you on nay. However, here's what you got to realize. I'm starving for football. I mean, starving. So guess what? I'm going to watch. And tonight, I don't know how long. It starts at 7. We get off the air at 7. Be home 7:30 or so, 7:40. I may watch a little bit. I don't know how much, but I'm starving for football. Do you realize, Diesel, the last 3 nights, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night, all 3 nights I have watched football on a rewind feature, whether it be high school, college, or pro.
Really?
I'm starving for it. Like, we're here. It's August. I'm in the starvation mode. I've got to have some kind of football.
I'm getting myself in vacation mode, so I haven't been watching a lot of football. And last night when we got home, I hopped on with the Sunbelt Syndicate guys and did about an hour with their show. Shout out to those guys. Look them up.
Is that the guy? No, not to get off on a rabbit.
Well, one of the hosts is TJ Corman, a guy who caught a touchdown pass against Michigan in 2007.
Wow, that's pretty big.
Yeah, he's a big deal. Kind of a big deal.
Pretty big deal. And let's see, text line. Where do we go? Karen, I've got to read this because I think this is a joke. It might not be, but I'm pretty sure it is. Karen, in all caps, says, sexism wins. Texter says, Cole lost round 1. Are you kidding me? Waffle House carries Tabasco, so it wins hands down, and so does Diesel. Brunettes are the only way to go. I didn't realize Waffle House was a Tabasco carrying hot sauce.
Here's the truth about a lot of our 5 o'clock fights. We make it intentionally difficult because they're all good. Blondes, brunettes, redheads, they're all good.
That's right. Absolutely. Corn Chip says, Cole gets the sweep. My wife heard that comment about blondes and said we can't be friends anymore. Sorry, Corn Chip. That's my bad.
Has she banned you from coming out to our live shows, Corn Chip?
That's my bad.
Come on.
Let's see.
Which, by the way, we're going to be down your way in 2 weeks. We're going to be at Piedmont. Yeah.
Cole clean sweep today. Everybody knows blondes have more fun. All right. Fat paid. Cole 1, Diesel 2 and 3. Redhead is the superior option, though. Wow. Didn't think I'd see that on the text line.
You don't see very many redheads out there. It's a freaky genetic mutation.
Brandon B, Cole round 2 only. So he gives Diesel.
Thank you, Brandon B.
Brandon B, what I do to you, man? What I do to you? Come on. That's a good one, though. 5 o'clock fight, always a fun time.
You missed this one. It says round 1 Diesel, round 2 Diesel.
Oh, yeah, I missed
Tabasco is an actual pepper. Round 3 goes to Cole. I've never dated a brunette. He says dated in air quotes. I think that means he's had some other fun interactions with them, but ... never dated.
God,
so there you go.
I knew that opened up a bag of worms.
You take him home from the bar, but you just won't wife him up.
Oh, man.
I see where you're going with that text.
All right, Diesel. 2024 12-team playoffs. Unofficial predictions. The teams that we're going to talk about next, you and I discuss. Are they in? Are they out? Caller, I see you. If you'll hang through the break, we'll get to you as well. All coming up next.
Quick, Cole, tell me I'm not a fish.
You're not a fish.
I'm not a fish.
Does that
I
help?
got the
rid of
hiccups. It cures my wife's hiccups every single time.
Really?
When she says,
I've never
look at me and
heard
tell
that.
me I'm not a fish.
You're not a fish. You're not a fish. You're not a fish. I've never heard that before. That's crazy.
Cured.
There's
You
no
heard
way.
it. I was hiccuping
You were?
before we came into this segment.
That's wild. All right, we appreciate
Amazing.
you hopping in. Diesel, he's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. Ben doing a good job training in the studio, Ingles Market Studios today, as we're going to go to the Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone, 844-326-3663. Brad wants to chime in on the USA Today basketball convo. Brad, what's up?
Hey, guys. I don't know if y'all got to pay much attention to it, but that was a fantastic basketball game. And if you haven't watched it, you really just need to watch it from the third quarter. Just watch the third quarter and fourth quarter. The first half was miserably bad. But also, like, y'all were talking about the Braves playing in Bristol.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can get good and bad from it. Logistically, I think it's a nightmare. From as far as money revenue, I don't think you could have come up with a better idea. Who knows? Maybe by then the Braves will not give up 16 runs in 8 innings like they did today, and we can be excited about Braves baseball again.
Well, Brad, if depending on who wins this game, don't they get to take the territory of Tennessee? Right? I mean, it's either going to become South Ohio or it's going to become North Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's a great matchup because you've got that corner where probably 90% of baseball fans in that area are either Braves or Reds fans anyway. So it really is, like I said, logistically it's a nightmare, but as far as revenue goes, I don't think they could have come up with a better idea.
Brad, you were talking about the USA game. For those, obviously, that were working like us, I mean, we were following it, but sound like Steph Curry was the man. Is that right?
12 of 16, I believe. I mean, so USA shot 50% from three, right? They were 16 of 32, and Curry had 12 of 16.
Brad, a question. I don't know how much you paid attention yesterday to the track and field stuff. I don't know if you saw Quincy Hall and his come from behind gold medal run in the 400 meters. What was the more impressive comeback? If you've seen both, you'll know. What was the more impressive comeback? Quincy Hall coming back from as far back as he was to win gold in that event, or Team USA coming back from down 17 to beat Serbia?
Definitely Team US, the basketball team. That they were left for dead at the start of the fourth quarter. I mean, the first 3 quarters of that game, no matter what Serbia did offensively, it worked. I mean, it was one of those things where, like I said, it doesn't matter what they did offensively, it was going to work. Yeah. And the fourth quarter, Team USA finally just woke up. And once they got rolling, I mean, the fourth quarter it was the first time they actually cut it. When they cut it to 6, it was the first time the whole game you felt good about it. Because in the third quarter, they had cut it to, I think, 6 or 7 twice. But as soon as they got it to 6 or 7, Serbia would go on another run. And, Jokic got in foul trouble in the fourth quarter, and, LeBron and Curry pretty much just took over. I mean, it was such a great game to watch.
Great stuff, Brad. Appreciate the phone call. 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663. How about Tolo Brad coming in with some stats?
He did. He did. And I know you're going to be happy about this, Cole, but it pisses me off. Steph Curry's the one who went out and scored like 35 in that win.
Yeah.
Hit the free throws that iced it for Team USA. And what does Yahoo Sports post? A picture of LeBron James in his stat sheet with 16 friggin' points. Nobody cares, LeBron. Get out of the way.
No, I'll agree
this is
with
not
you.
your game.
I'll agree with you on that one. They should have posted Curry. I agree with you. Curry should have been the photo. Even though I am a LeBron fan, I can take my LeBron glasses off when needed, and I'll take them off right now.
Can I call you a lover, a LeBron lover?
Absolutely.
He's
I have no shame.
Lover.
No shame in that. All right, Diesel, in this very segment, we have to find out, you as well as our Tolos, 71307, start your text with the word fan. We have to find out if these teams that we have in the USA Top 25 from yesterday's poll, if these teams will make the college football playoff, I want to ask a couple of questions in terms of teams like Iowa, Kansas, USC, NC State. And then obviously you get down to Utah, LSU, Missouri. We think some of those teams will be in. But it's fascinating to look at the outer section, the 18 through 25. Before we do that, let's go right back to the phones, 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-326-3663. While we are talking to JD, Tolos, you can get your phones out and have them ready, 71307. Start your text with the word FAN. JD, what's up, man?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Listen, I just happened to get back in there and heard Brad talking like he was another interview. I thought y'all were interviewing there for a minute. I thought he was another interview guest. He went on about LeBron and Curry and the Olympics. And so, yeah, Cole, you and I, as LeBron fans, at this point, will it be the best thing for LeBron and Steph Curry going forward to be teammates, man? Like I said, I hate to be off subject. I just wanted to chime in there real quick.
Appreciate the phone call. I'll answer that. And Diesel's shaking his head in distaste because he got two LeBron fans on the mic. But
dear God, can you two get a room?
Yeah, absolutely.
You lovers.
No, I'll say this. I wish he could. In a perfect world, I wish he could. I wish he could team up with Steph. That'd be phenomenal. However, appreciate the phone call, JD.
To be LeBron going to another team to chase rings.
It won't happen. It won't happen. And yeah, to his first point, Brad's phone call, he thought it was an interview. JD, same way. Our Tolos bring it strong, Diesel. They bring it strong. All right, let's ask the question. The expanded playoff 2024. I'm going to do this in a little bit of a rapid fire scenario here, Diesel. A little bit of rapid fire game, as I want to find out. These are not our official playoff predictions, but I want the Tolos' thoughts as well. If you're on the stream watching Wire to Wire, you can get your thoughts in there on the chat. But I want to rapid fire some teams, and you and I discuss if these teams will find themselves on the inside or outside of the college football playoff. I want to start with the USA Today Diesel number 15 ranked Tennessee Volunteers. I'll let you go first. The Volunteers obviously will have to find a solution at quarterback. They've got their guy, they say, but Nico, they've had some good ones. Do you believe the Tennessee Volunteers will be in the college football playoff?
Well, let's take a look at the Tennessee football schedule, shall we? They're going to beat Chattanooga. They're going to beat NC State. They're going to beat Kansas State. Then it starts getting tough. They go on the road at Oklahoma. I'm going to say that's a loss. So now they're 1-3. They're going to 3-1. They're going to beat Arkansas. That's 4-1. They're going to beat Florida. That's 5-1. They'll lose to Alabama, 5-2.
Okay.
Beat Kentucky, 6-2. Beat Mississippi State, 7-2. Lose to Georgia, 7-3. Beat UTEP, beat Vanderbilt, 9-3. 9-3 on the season. That's right on the edge. I mean, they're gonna need some help at that point, but I wouldn't without going down everybody else's schedules and trying to really parse out where I think these win-loss totals are going to be. I'm going to say that Tennessee is one of the first teams left out.
Well, guess what? I will agree with you. I do not think Tennessee makes the college football playoff, even though it's expanded. I'll tell you why. I think that while we will see some SEC teams, Diesel, get in, I think it also, in turn, makes it tougher. I think being in the SEC has an advantage with a new playoff because you do have a chance to get in even if you don't win the conference. However, the other side of that sword is you've got to have a resume and wins that qualify you to get in. And I don't think Tennessee will have the resume and the wins because they're not going to win the conference.
Right, they're going to lose all the biggest games.
And that's right.
Against other playoff-bound teams.
Right. And at the end of the day, they're going to have a win that says, hey, look at us. We're in. You're not. And I think I agree with you. I think they get left out. Next team. And by the way, Tolos, you can play along as well. 71307, start your text with the word FAN. Let's go down south, about as far down south as you can go. In the state of Florida, Miami Hurricanes, who are right now number 19 in the country in the Coaches USA Today poll that we discussed many times already this week. Number 19 ranked Miami Hurricanes. Do they find themselves in the college football playoff, Diesel? I'll go first on this one. I say Miami does find themselves in the playoff.
Oh, you had me right there on the edge of my seat
Had
the
you
whole
on the
time.
edge.
I was like, does get in? Does
I
get
think they
left
do.
out? Oh,
I think they do.
yeah, I think so as well. Looking at this schedule, they play 1-2 ranked teams only.
Okay.
Louisville, and home versus Florida State. Now, if they were to be undefeated at that point, which would be 6-0, coming off a bye week, and if they lose back-to-back games against Louisville and Florida State, that's where people really start questioning. Now, if they split those games, I think they're absolutely in. I don't think there's any doubt at that point.
Those two games again are what?
Those two games, October 19th at number 21 Louisville,
okay,
and then October 26th at home versus number 15 Florida State. And then they've got Duke, Georgia Tech, Wake, and Syracuse after that.
See, I think,
to maybe knock the bad taste out of some of the committee's mouths. If they lose one of those games, which in all likelihood it would probably be the Florida State game,
right?
They could then go on a tear and smack some teams around and start winning by 21 points again and kind of eliminate the doubts.
And that's where I was going to go when you brought up Florida State. Right now, today, Diesel, without seeing any football on August 8th, right now, today, I think Miami beats Louisville. I think Miami will beat Louisville, but lose to Florida State. However, if they were to run the table, you and I wouldn't have this conversation. We know they'd be in. But I think with the schedule as favorable as it is, and by the way, Texter says Miami's a no. Don't tell Madcraft I said that. I think with their schedule as favorable as it is, I think there's a very good possibility for them to get in. It's fascinating, though.
Yeah, I think this is a topic I want to bring up on the show tomorrow, Cole. Okay. So I don't want to get too deep into this.
Let's play it.
But is it favorable to miss your conference championship game to have the extra rest, depending on exactly where you're seated? It might be a better thing for you to not make the conference championship game
if you get like in the
that's like having a bye anyway, right? By not playing that week.
If you knew, okay, I won't get into it because that's a good topic. All right, let's do one more. We have time for one more. We did Miami. We did Tennessee. Ooh, this one's tough. We have to pick one more number. Let's go right here. Let's go number 16, Diesel. The Brent Venables-led Oklahoma Sooners. Right now, they're 16 in the country preseason. I do not know if Oklahoma will be ready for the test of the SEC. I say when it's all said and done in 2024, they are not a playoff team. Do you agree or disagree on Oklahoma?
Not even close to being a playoff team. Oklahoma is going to be the team between them and Texas. Oklahoma will be the one that struggles most in the first year. I mean, and I don't think Texas is going to struggle at all. I think Texas will be in really good shape in the SEC. I think Oklahoma is going to find out, oh crap, we are in a world of hurt. I mean, they're going to start 3-0, Temple, Houston, Tulane, and then they got Tennessee at Auburn, at home versus Texas. Take that back again, at the Cotton Bowl Stadium versus Texas. So neutral site. South Carolina at home, Ole Miss on the road, the Maine Black Bears, the mighty Maine Black Bears, and then you got Missouri, Alabama, and LSU to end the season. That's
brutal.
Tough.
That's brutal.
Mean, I could see the Oklahoma Sooners going on. Honestly, I could see them going on 2 back-to-back losing streaks over the course of the season. I think Tennessee could kick the crap out of them. I think they hit that environment at Jordan-Hare at Auburn. They could lose that ball game. And then they're going to lose to Texas.
While you have that schedule pulled up, what would their record, in our opinion, have to be for them to get in? 2 losses would have to be it, right? There's no way they get in with 3 losses. But 2 losses, I mean,
2 losses means, I mean, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ranked opponents on their schedule.
That's brutal.
The worst of which is Tennessee. So,
man.
so if they won 4 out of those 6 ranked games against top 16 opponents, I don't think there's any way you keep them out, but I don't think there's any chance they win 4 out of 6.
That doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's a hard schedule for the first year
tough,
in
man.
the SEC.
Good luck, Brent.
Yep, good luck to them. And hey, good luck to the Hub City Spartanburgers, who now have a schedule.
What?
Yeah, they have a schedule. I'll tell you all about it when we come back right here on the Fan Upstate. It is officially official. You Spartanburg Tolos, your Hub City Burgers have a schedule for 2025. It is out there, people. The 2025 first inaugural season for the Hub City Spartanburgers are going to see them play the Greenville Drive 12 times.
Let's go.
Yeah, man.
I cannot wait.
So the inaugural home game will be April 15th, 2025. You'll be hosting the Bowling Green Hot Rods for a 6-game series. You hope obviously that you have a good roster and you win a couple of those games, but ultimately it doesn't matter. Just be excited for the fact that you have live baseball back in downtown Spartanburg, man. I'm pumped for it.
The thing about it is, you're right. You want to win, but at the end of the day, minor league baseball, when I go to a drive game, I care more about fan experience than I do the team winning. So Spartanburg has to understand that, they want a team to win, but that's not their job. Like the GMs, they can't control if the team wins. You've got to make sure it's a good fan experience. And I hope so. I hope, just being completely out there and honest, I hope a lot of the disdain around the team name is gone by then, Diesel, because as well as I do, a lot of people didn't love the team name, and I didn't. I was one of them. But I do think it's going to be a good fan experience, and I can't wait. I'm with you.
What's the better team name, Spartanburgers or Drive?
I like Drive better.
Drive just bland.
It is bland, but
it's boring.
I don't like. I'm not a Spartanburgers fan. Again, it may grow on me. And I hope it does. I'm still gonna support them.
I still love some of the uniform combos.
You talking about the
Spartanburgers? Yeah. That bright green uniform. It kind of looks like Seattle Seahawks. It's got that bright green with the dark blue as the secondary color. Those jerseys look amazing. I can't wait to see those out there on the field. And I hope, I do hope, I don't know the rules about home jerseys, away jerseys in minor league baseball, but I hope that we get to see a lot more of those on the field. Like, do they have to wear home whites? Is that how it works?
I don't know. I hope
and then
not.
away colors, because then
shouldn't be for minor league.
Then the minor league, you would never get to see your favorite jerseys.
Right.
That would suck.
So that's cool. So 12 times they will see Spartanburg Greenville.
A 6-game series from April 22nd through the 27th.
Oh, wow. Only 2 series.
And then another 6-game series, August 19th through the 24th. Now, those are going to be the 2 home series. So they'll play 12 home games against the Greenville Drive. The schedule that we have out, which, by the way, I linked there if you haven't opened it up yet on the rundown there.
Yeah.
It doesn't denote who the away games are going to be. It just it says if there's a blue square, it's a home game. So we've got 2 6-game home series against the Greenville Drive, but it doesn't tell us who the away opponents are going to be.
You know what I think they should do, Diesel? And I will gladly voice my opinion. It may have no weight. It may have a little weight. I don't care, but I'll voice my opinion with our good friend Tyson Jeffers. I think the city of Greenville and Spartanburg, when those 2 teams play, there should be some kind of a wager, like between the 2 mayors or some kind of police department and the fire department. You know what I mean? We've got to have some kind of rivalry. Like on the field that day, Greenville, let's say the Greenville Police Department versus the Spartanburg Police Department tug-of-war, right? Or the mayor versus the mayor, the Greenville mayor versus the Spartanburg mayor, and some kind of competition. We've got to build this because, we love baseball's back in Spartanburg. That's great. But everybody loves a storyline. We've got to have something on the line. Somebody's got to have a little skin in the game when it comes to Spartanburg Greenville. Unfortunately, you and I, the only times we'll get to see those games are on the weekends because you and I work.
How about this? If the Greenville Drive win the series, they get to eminent domain, the territory immediately around Ike's, and that city block becomes one island block of Greenville.
That's torture.
Yeah.
You can't claim Ike's.
Yeah.
You can't have Ike's.
Claim it Ike's.
No.
Come on. If the Spartanburgers must defend their own, and if not, the home of widely considered the best burger in town will be in Greenville. How about that?
That would be an insult, man. That would be tough.
I mean, if you're going to do something, put something real on the line. How about that?
Well, what happened to Spartanburg one? What do we get?
Ooh,
'Cause I say
you
we.
get, yeah. What's the best thing about Greenville?
The best thing about Greenville.
Falls Park becomes a part of Spartanburg. How about that?
The downtown park, the waterfall area. Claim it's
that's Spartanburg. It's part of Spartanburg for a day,
that's
or
great.
a month, or whatever.
I like it. There's got to be something on the line, though. I'm excited. You and I, with us being on the air till 7, we'll have to catch them on the weekends, and hopefully we'll be able to do some live remotes and stuff. That'd be cool. But it's gonna be great for the city. So the city of Spartanburg already, especially downtown, is getting better and better. It's just growing and growing. So this will be great.
Very good suggestion here from Rob Jones. I don't know if this is our Rob Jones or just a Rob Jones. He says whoever wins the most games between Greenville and Spartanburg gets sole naming rights to the airport.
Oh, that's a good one.
I like it.
Instead of GSP.
Yes, but Greenville Airport, Spartanburg Airport.
Pilots and the people who are on the intercoms and airports,
that's not going to work.
They cannot say Spartanburg. They cannot say it. It's Spartans. Every time I fly in the GSP, they can't say Spartanburg. It's either Spartansburg or Spartanburgs. There's always an S somewhere. There's not supposed to be an S. But I like that idea. Give us the airport. The airport is now ours.
That's a really good question. Maybe we should dive into that a little bit deeper. Let's see if we can get Tyson on the line. Let's see if we can get a representative from the drive on the line, and let's put some real scratch in the game.
There's got to be. There's got to be.
Yeah.
Got to be some cheese.
I'm totally in for that.
There's got to be cheese in order for something to matter. Everybody loves good baseball, but come on, everybody knows what sells tickets.
Now, the drive better win a majority of those games.
Sure.
There's 12 games. I think you got to win 8 out of 12. You got to win 8 out of 12. If you don't do that, that's embarrassing because you're high A, they're low A, you're established, they're brand new. You can't be losing the series if you're the drive to the Spartanburgers.
It would be a bad look for a first team, a first-year team, if you will, like the Spartanburgers, to hop back in and just demolish the Greenville Drive, who've already been in existence, by the way. That would not be good. All right, Diesel, coming up next, I want to hop back into the very first segment when we were going through our predictions for the Core 4 conferences. That's a new name. We made our predictions.
The Core 4? Core 4.
Core 4 conference.
Oh.
We will try to dive a little deeper in that because we touched on all the conferences, made our predictions, but I want to dive a little deeper and really find out where we're right and where we're wrong when it comes to the ACC and the SEC predictions. Get your thoughts as well. And we have a brand new audience at 6 o'clock. We did that at 3 o'clock today. So if you missed it, hop back in the conversation. We'll touch on the Core 4, C-O-R-E, Core 4 conference predictions next. Diesel, in the very first segment of the show, you and I started off with a bang. You brought to the table the Core Four, which I don't know that I love that name. It's going to take me some time to get
I do
used
like
to that.
rhyming and alliteration, though.
Yeah, it's just weird. We don't like change, so it's going to take me some time to get used to the Core Four. But I am interested in the Core Four predictions that we made, because it is fascinating when we look at the ACC and the SEC. I know we talked about the Big Ten and the Big 12. However, I want to start back with the ACC. When you look at the ACC this season, I do believe that there is more parity and more teams that actually have a chance to win the ACC than we've had in quite some time. Usually it's been, let's say for the past decade, it feels like it's been Clemson's league. Florida State, obviously, last year was very good. They were a very good team last year, beat Clemson last year. But I do think Clemson fans probably won't admit it. They probably won't like this, Diesel. But I do think that a little bit of parity is good for the ACC, as long as they're still able to put a team in the conversation when it comes down to the end of the season for a national title. Do you think, though, this is the question I want to start with, this year, 2024, because we know FSU got hosed last year and got left out, do you think there's a team in the ACC this year that is able to compete in the Final Four of the playoff for a national championship?
Ooh, compete in the Final Four. So we're
just out of the ACC.
Okay, so we're pretending that they've gotten into the 12 and that they've won a game.
Yep.
And now they're in the Final Four.
Who in your mind has a legit shot to actually win a title?
Who has enough talent to go win the title?
Right. Or the answer could be you don't think there's a team in the ACC that has the talent to win a title this year.
Oh, man. I think Florida State's the closest to having it, but I don't know that they've got it. I genuinely don't. Yeah. I mean, I think Miami's just is going to be a good football team, but they won't be tested. So we can't know about them until they get into the playoff. Florida State is just loaded with big dudes that transferred in. They clearly would have been able to compete for it last year. I think Florida State might be the only answer there. Clemson doesn't have the offensive firepower to do it.
Well, I don't think you're wrong there. My answer is I don't think there's a team in the ACC this season in 2024 that can compete for a national championship. And I gladly will accept any Tolos that want to push back on that. You can push back. You can challenge me. You can say I'm crazy. You can tell me which team in your mind can compete for a national championship. But 71307, start your text with the word fan. Phone lines are open during this segment as well. 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663. I don't think Clemson is ready to compete because of wide receivers. I've said it once. I've said it a million times. Clemson, they haven't had the generational quarterbacks, but Clemson also have not had in the last 4 years the receivers to go out and, to your point, be enough of offensive firepower to make a difference. I don't think Cade Klubnik's the guy. Is he going to be a good quarterback this year? I think he'll be better. I don't think he's the guy. I don't think they had the receivers. I do, however, Diesel, I do tell you that I think Clemson has a championship defense this year. I think their defense is championship caliber. However, the old adage of championships win defense, or defense wins championships, rather. I can't speak. Defense wins championships. You got to have offense. And as good as Clemson's defense may be, I don't think their offense will be enough.
Yeah, you can't win a national championship being one-dimensional. You can win your conference being one-dimensional, especially when everybody else in your conference is relatively weak. It's possible that Clemson does win the ACC. They just don't have the hogs to go, and unless this defense is just historically good,
right?
And I don't necessarily see that being the case. I think they will be very good. I think they'll be good enough to compete for and possibly win the ACC. But will they be good enough to shut down Carson Beck in Georgia? No.
We'll see.
Will they be good enough to shut down Quinn Ewers in Texas? No. Will they be good enough to shut down Alabama? No. And Jalen Milroe? No. So
they'll be able to hold their own.
They can hold them, but then they also have to go and outscore them. That's the problem.
Listen, I think at times this year, Clemson's offense will have flashes. I think there will be a lot more flashes in 2024 than there were in 2023. I think Clemson's offense will have I think Clemson will have a more efficient offense this season, especially with their running game in Maffa. I just don't know that it's championship caliber. To your point, when you talk about teams like Ohio State, when you talk about teams like Texas, Georgia, they're going to have good defenses, but they're going to have guys on the offensive side of the ball that test you. Clemson, if they want in 2024 to be a national contender, they're going to have guys at the wide receiver position step up and say, we're alphas, we're good enough to test defenses of Georgia, Alabama, to your point, Texas, and I just don't know. They're going to have some good receivers. I think the receiving core and the receiving room will be better than last year. I just don't know that they'll have enough. So, to answer my own question, I don't think there's a team in the ACC this year that can compete. Florida State, Diesel, if DJU has a good year, maybe they're in the conversation, but the thing that worries me with Florida State is they had to replace a ton off of last year's roster.
I got no faith in DJU.
Really?
I mean, DJU was a failure at Clemson. DJU had to run off to the big to the Pac-12 to be worth a damn. And they don't play any defense out there. Not that they play a ton of defense in the ACC either, but it is better. Mm-hmm. And then he came back. I think he feels like he has some unfinished business, and that business is gonna stay unfinished. I mean, I don't know where DJU is projecting right now. He's, I would be shocked if he went higher than Spencer Rattler did last year, was a 5th round guy. I'd be shocked if DJU even got drafted.
Really?
Yeah. Unless he just has some tremendous 2024 season, but I don't see that out of him. I don't.
Texter from the 437. Oh, this is Fat Paid. Fat Paid says, now that Maffa doesn't have to split carries with a small white running back, should be a lot better.
Well, he can't do it all his own.
He
can't take 100% of the reps either.
And I don't think you will see him take 100%. I think Clemson at their running back position in the running back room, I think there's a very competitive battle going on in that room based on people we've talked to and what we've seen. I think there's a lot of competition at 2 and 3. Jarvis Green, a little bit of an injury scare lately. I think based on what Dabo Swinney has said, he's going to be okay. But people forget that Jarvis Green out of Dutch Fork High School in Columbia was an absolute animal in high school. And this guy could be an animal, Tavian Feaster-like in college. Jarvis Green is still in that running back room. They do have guys behind Maffa, who's a very good running back, that can contribute. And to your point, Fat Paid, I don't think he will split as many carries this year, but to Diesel's point, he can't do it all. So those are my ACC thoughts. I do not think there's a team that will win the ACC championship or be in the championship out of the ACC. SEC-wise, though, Diesel, you and I think we saved this one for last in the very first segment. I picked Georgia to win the SEC, Alabama to finish second, Texas to finish third. Do you believe, as you and I ranked 1, 2, and 3 of the SEC, do you believe that there are 3 or more contenders in the SEC that can compete for a national title, or is it more like 2 in your opinion?
Oh, I think there's way more.
Really?
I think there's way more. Of course, it depends on the matchups that they get at that point. But man, I'm looking at the SEC. Georgia could win it. Texas could win it. Alabama could win it. I think Tennessee could. No, sorry, not Tennessee. LSU. I think LSU could. I think Missouri could. That's where it starts to get a little iffy.
A little hairy.
It gets a little hairy. I mean, LSU's going to be nasty. They're replacing Jaden Daniels. Tennessee is going to be nasty. They're replacing a quarterback. Missouri's got a much older, experienced roster. Ole Miss is loaded with transfer guys. I mean, it would be hard for me to say that LSU and Tennessee absolutely 100% cannot. So I've got 2, 4, 6, 7
Wow.
SEC teams
Okay.
that I think could go win a national championship.
I like that. Let me see if I don't think I have that many. Let's see.
But it's more like, realistically, it's more like 5.
Realistically, 5.
5.
Okay, let's use 5 as a number. Realistically, I'll go Auburn, no. LSU, I'm going to go no. They have to replace a really good quarterback. A&M, no. Ole Miss, I'm going to go yes for Ole Miss. I think they have a shot. Now, is there a shot? Is it a good shot? No. But I think they have a shot. Ole Miss, yes. Georgia, yes. Alabama, yes. That's 3. Arkansas, no. Florida, no. Tennessee, no. Texas, yes. That's 4. Oklahoma, South Carolina, Kentucky, no. Missouri, this could be 5 for me in terms of national contenders. I'll say this. On Missouri, I like their team. I like their coach. They have a very, very favorable schedule, Diesel, in 2024.
Yeah.
However, talent-wise, I don't think they're a contender. Schedule-wise, guess what? We didn't do this in the last game, but they may find themselves on the fringe of making the playoff.
Missouri may get into the SEC championship game just by virtue of playoff and then get that ass waxed by whoever it is they play, whether it's Georgia, Texas, or Alabama. They're going to get absolutely smoked against one of those two teams.
2024, I know we've talked about it before, but 2024 Missouri football schedule, I'm not super high on the team. I don't think they're a bad team by any stretch. I don't think they're a national contender, though, is what I'm saying. But when you look at their schedule in 2024, it's a cakewalk. And try, Tolos, to tell me I'm wrong here. Murray State, Buffalo, Boston College, Vandy. That's 4-0 out of the gate, Diesel, right? Then they have a bye week. A&M, who shouldn't be ranked. UMass, Auburn, Alabama, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Mississippi State. I see one loss on that schedule. Maybe they lose. They're going to lose to Alabama, in my opinion. Right now, I'd pick Missouri to beat Oklahoma. Right now, I'd pick them to beat South Carolina. Right now, I'd pick them to beat Mississippi State. Who's the other loss? If you look at the schedule, Auburn at home, they're hosting Auburn. I don't think they lose all. That's what I'm saying. This schedule for Missouri sets up in a way that, going back to our last segment, they very well could be a national contender just because of their schedule.
Yeah, they're going to be, in my mind, I see a one-loss team at the end of the season.
Could be.
I mean, unless something crazy happens, but they're going to lose at Alabama. Then they have a bye week before they host Oklahoma.
They should beat them.
And they should beat them. Yeah. I would certainly think that they would.
That's a fascinating team.
Yeah, playing at Texas A&M, maybe just because of the environment, because it's relatively early in the season. It's week 6 there. Yeah. Maybe Texas A&M fans are still giving them something at that point. But A&M, by that point, I think A&M is going to beat Notre Dame. A&M's going to be undefeated when they host Missouri.
Wow, what a game that
A&M's going to be undefeated.
And that is on October 5th?
October 5th. So, man, October 5th, like this. October 5th is like a nexus of all these amazing games happening.
Scheduled nothing on October 5th. I mean, absolutely nothing. Texter from the 903 says, you are forgetting Ole Miss. They have.
Didn't I list off Ole Miss?
I think we both did.
Yeah, I think we both did.
They will be in top 3. Oh, do you mean in terms of the top 3 SEC? I don't think Ole Miss.
Just by virtue of how much power they got ahead of them.
I don't think they're in my top 3 of the SEC.
No.
You're not beating Texas. Ole Miss could be Alabama. They're not beating Georgia. I'd say that's let me digress. I don't even know if they play those 3 teams. But I don't think they're top 3. They're close. They're close. Again, I said that I think they're a contender if all goes well. But of Bama, Georgia, and Texas, how many of those do they actually play? Let's look. I don't know. Let's see. South Carolina, LSU, Oklahoma. They play Georgia. They don't play Bama, and they don't play Texas. Wow.
Ole Miss got a hell of a schedule, too.
They avoided Texas and Alabama. Let me double check.
So that means next year they're going to win 4 games because they're going to catch all of those hands.
They did. They avoided Texas and Alabama. Yep, they did. No Texas, no Alabama for Lane Kiffin. So by virtue of record and schedule, maybe they could be near the top of this.
And you only play one really difficult road game, and that's October 12th at LSU. Otherwise, you play Kentucky at home, Oklahoma at home, Georgia at home.
You know what's fascinating?
Start putting up the temporary bleachers, man. They're going to sell out a lot of games this year.
No doubt. And before we run, I know in a few minutes we have to take a break. But what's fascinating, Diesel, about this season? If I make a statement or I predict something, and I'm right, obviously I'll tell you I'm right. But I also will tell you I'm wrong. I'll tell you where I went wrong. When the playoff was announced from 4 teams to 12 teams, I initially was against it. I didn't like it. I didn't want 12 teams.
I would have liked 8.
You like 8?
Better.
Well, here, I'll tell you this.
No, I don't believe in getting buys. Not at this point. I mean,
and I don't know that I'd be opposed to 8, but my point is, as we approach football season, I'm warmed up to it. I'm warmed up to teams having a shot at the playoff. Now, will those teams have a shot at the championship? Probably not. However, more teams getting in is something that I didn't think would excite me when it was announced a few years ago. However, I'm here to tell you I was wrong. I've changed my mind. I really am. I'm excited for the fact, Diesel, that as we approach the 2024 season, there's parity from 8 to 16, and there's some good teams that maybe, if they got in, could make a run. I don't know if they do.
Yeah.
But that excites me.
What excites me most is there's going to be teams that in a normal 4-year playoff year, the committee, they love to sort of make their minds up early and then just kind of sit chalk throughout the rest, unless craziness happens.
Yeah.
And I've had the opinion that a lot of those teams behind them, there's nothing they can do to break through the ceiling to get into that top 4 and be in for the college football playoff. But now that's gone, right? The committee is gonna maybe that's just gonna move that can down the road a little bit and say, okay, everybody who's 13 through 17 might have a real chance to get in. But I genuinely believe there's teams that can, win a game, even though they've stumbled possibly against a good opponent, possibly against a bad opponent that could be good enough to go win a 4-team playoff that just has never had a chance.
So what's interesting about the expansion this season, Alabama's dynasty and what Georgia's done recent, Diesel, kind of compares to that dynasty run, right? As good as Alabama was, as good as Georgia is, if there were 2, 3, and God forbid 4 teams that were all in a dynasty mode that were just unstoppable, I think the 12-team playoff would be pointless. Because you'd still, at the end of the day, you'd still have the same teams getting to the Final Four, right? You'd have those 4 dynasties playing for the Final Four. However, with Georgia, in my opinion, being the only dynasty right now, I don't think that narrative reigns true because we might have some parity in the Final Four because teams who do get in from around 8 to 12 may be able to make a run to the Final Four. If we had just dynasties from 1 to 4, the Final Four would be the Final Four regardless of if it was a 4-team playoff or a 12-team playoff. However, I like the parity.
Fascinating conversation, and it's getting closer and closer and closer to actually being able to talk about games instead of just chewing on the fat. When we come back, we talk a little bit of college football, a little bit of NFL, a little bit of Braves, all of the above with Reggie Chapman Jr., who's a sports anchor and reporter at 11 Alive News in Atlanta. That's next.
genetics uses this advanced regenerative medicine to treat the pain, enhance your joints, restore your mobility, and give you the relief you've been searching for with no downtime. And their local medical professionals are ready to help you. With this regenerative, restorative cellular therapy that is the future of medicine, and they are ready to help right now. Call for a free consultation at 864-448-3772, 864-448-3772 in Greenville and Asheville, 864-448-3772. It's QC Kinetics.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm. If you own a timeshare, don't miss this public service announcement from Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group.
If you receive an unsolicited phone call or mail piece to discuss selling, renting, or especially canceling your timeshare, don't fall for it. If you really want out of your timeshare, hang the phone up immediately or throw that mail piece in the trash and contact your timeshare resort or Wesley Financial Group for assistance with your timeshare. As the only Inc. 500 timeshare cancellation company, our knowledge, experience, and results has made Wesley a trusted resource for over 40,000 families we've helped get out of their timeshare. Give us a call, and I'll send you our timeshare exit information kit free with the straight facts about your timeshare and all of your options for cancellation.
Call for your free info kit, 800-513-4444. 800-513-4444. 800-513-4444.
Downy Rinse and Refresh. Break up with stinky clothes.
Rinse it up. Every now and then I get a little bit tired of the stinks that just will never come out. Oh, Downy the rinse change. Every now and then I rinse it out. One wash and it delivers. One wash, it smells so clean. Downy Rinse and Refresh, it's a dream.
Downy Rinse and Refresh removes 100% of odor in just one wash. Guaranteed.
Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Turn on, leave on.
Rick wants to chime in. What's up, Rick?
My side hustle is unusual.
Oh, God.
We have cockroach racing on Saturday night, and I'm the announcer for the cockroach race.
Somebody takes hard-earned money and pays you $100 to call a cockroach race? I'd rather watch an ice cube melting contest.
And we do it at Sugar Tip. It's called the Sugar Tip Cockroach Racing Circuit.
And you can do what?
You can drink liquor. We serve hot dogs. It's close to the Sugar Tip Brewery. I mean, you got it made. Betting on cockroaches. They have numbers on the back of them.
This show is off the rails.
Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson.
Turn on, leave on. Afternoons 3 to 7 on the Fan Upstate. The Fan Upstate. Here's how to get in the game. On your radio at 97.7 FM, 1330 AM, Greenville. 97.1 FM, 950 AM, Spartanburg.
Listen on your phone. Download the Odyssey app and search The Fan Upstate.
There's a whole lot more to know about sound if you really want to go into the subject.
Your smart speaker. Just say play 97 The Fan Upstate. On your HD radio at WFBC HD3. Oh, there's just one more thing. And on your computer at
FanUpstate.com.
Leave your namby-pamby sports takes at the door. Call in if you're man enough.
844 Fan Phone. This is Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson.
It is time to talk a little Falcons, Braves, Georgia Bulldogs, Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. He does it all. He's Reggie Chapman Jr., sports anchor, reporter at 11 Alive News in Atlanta. Good friend of the show. Reggie, hope you're well, man. Let's get it started. You're down there in Atlanta. We were at ACC Media Days. Can you somehow hype me and our audience up for Georgia Tech football in 2024, that they'll be able to make some kind of run in the ACC?
Well, look, I'll tell you. Well, first off, thanks for having me back on the show, guys. Georgia Tech, man. There's not been this much excitement around this program in a little while. I mean, I think what Brent Key has been doing with this program, he's set them up in a way to where it's not just talk anymore. I think when I got here back in 2021, that was Jeff Collins was here. And I always have the running joke about how when he had his first press conference, it felt like he was, and I didn't know very much about Georgia Tech. He made me feel like they was going to win the ACC, and then went out there and went 3-7 or whatever they did for the next 2 years before he was eventually fired. I think what Brent Key's been building here is not a lot of talk. It's a lot of action. He's brought in he's making moves within his staff. He's bringing in new players. They're a lot more physical. And look, I think the biggest change they have is they finally have a quarterback under center that can actually handle business. I'm sure you guys got a chance to learn a bit more about Haynes King while he was out there at ACC Media Days. And I'll tell you, man, he is a quarterback that brings a lot of leadership. He can throw the ball really well. And then if it's any indication as well, Georgia Tech plays really well on College Football 25. I got my first one with them a couple weeks ago. So, look, I'm a big fan as well now as well.
Reggie Chapman Jr., sports anchor at 11 Alive News in Atlanta. Reggie, any buzz, any juice about the intercity matchup with Georgia State? I understand Georgia State not expected to be good, not a lot of history there, but, man, this is one of those ones that feels like if you're going to be taken seriously, even in your own city, you got to handle business against the Panthers.
That one you have to get done, and for multiple reasons. I mean, Georgia State is in a state of transition as well. I mean, Del McGee joins that program after moving from Georgia as the running backs coach out there, and he's the first-year head coach. He got hired in February after the old head coach, Sean Elliott, just kind of left very quickly in the middle of the year. So, look, that team is trying to figure things out. He had to build his staff, and he had to try and figure out what players he's going to have, and that's a program that Georgia Tech is going to have to beat in week 2. But you can tell, look, at this point, they're focused right now on just getting ready for this first match as they head across the pond to play in Ireland against Florida State.
It's fascinating, really fascinating game across the pond, as you said. Reggie Chapman Jr., sports anchor at 11 Alive News in Atlanta, good friend of the show. Appreciate you hopping on with us for a few minutes. It's fascinating when you look at a team in Atlanta that usually this time of year, Reggie, we're really excited to talk about. However, Diesel and I have talked about it many times in the past few weeks. It's just kind of becoming something that is, like that old grandma that nobody likes. Nobody really wants to talk about that old grandma because she's close to death. She's going to die here in a few weeks. And I'm getting really dark. I'm getting dark, but I'm being honest. Reggie, I'm being honest. The Atlanta Braves, I'm done with them. I'm a Braves fan, diehard Braves fan. I'm just sick and tired of it. Go ahead and end the season for me, and let's get ready for 2025. Am I wrong?
Look, the way that you described that was pretty wild, but I will say this. I totally understand how you're feeling, man. I think that this was maybe the most important stretch of the season, right? The Phillies, who have been very good all season long, go on their longest losing streak of the year. You managed to bring back the deficit to 5 games in the division. There's all this talk from Brian Sticker saying, look, we still want to win the division. And you're starting to feel good about it. And despite all the injuries, you think, hey, the bats are starting to click, guys are starting to play, and then they do what they really should not have done. I mean, that Marlins series, losing those last 2 games was really just unacceptable for a team that just sold at the end of the trade deadline, and then they've just been embarrassed at home. And look, just put into perspective, right? They had a 231 game streak of without being shut out at home at Truist Park, right? They've been shut out twice in this series in the last 3 days. And then today they gave up 1 million runs. I mean, it's this what is happening right now for the Braves is just unacceptable. And I can understand why you say it's over. Look, they're still in a position right now to hypothetically still make the postseason if they can just finish with some semblance of being strong. And if you're this team, you take that at least, because I think that people would absolutely riot if you don't make the postseason anyway.
Reggie, are fans, as far as turnout goes at Atlanta Braves games, are they voicing their displeasure by not showing up? I mean, if it's me and I'm thinking, hey, do I really want to drive 2.5, 3 hours down to Atlanta to watch a team that's probably going to crap the bed against a crappy team? Why should I even bother? Why should I go buy tickets? That might be the best way to gauge how fans feel about this team right now. Are they still showing out for them?
Look, I don't think it's become that big of an issue yet. I think, look, if you look at some of how the crowd looked today, it was like a 12:35 first pitch in the middle of the summer here. It's really hot in Atlanta. That's no secret at all. So, I mean, if anything, for today, that was the issue. But I think over the last week here, I think our biggest gauge will be when they come back from this road trip out west, because at least this last 5 games, you're thinking, hey, at a certain point, this is our biggest games of the year if we really want to make a dent into the Phillies. And I think we'll really know truly how people feel when they come back. But overall, I think it's a lot of negativity on social media and Twitter. Guys are all over the Braves. I saw a tweet that said, look, man, I don't have to be upset about the Braves today because I was at work like I should be. Like, it's gotten to that point because that same person 2 weeks ago would have been tweeting home run highlights and talking about how Austin Riley was the best player he's ever seen. So it's a real negative vibe right now, and they're going to have to do something to try and turn things around.
They've allowed 41 runs, Reggie, in their last 4 games. And by the way, one thing you'll notice coming on with us more and more, I have no filter. I just, I may upset people with that no filter comment, but that's the way I feel. And you know what? The Braves fans, I know that injuries have been a bugaboo this year. There's no doubting that. There's no escaping and going around the injury conversation. I get that. But when you look at this team, the way that they've played with the guys that they've had on the roster that are healthy, giving up 41 runs in the past 4, that's embarrassing. What do you, as someone who covers it a lot closer than I do, attribute this just embarrassing season to?
Well, look, I mean, I think the biggest thing is the injuries. But look, it's such a big difference from what the season was a season ago, right? I think that last year you had good pitching, but the hitting was just unbelievable, right? Record-setting pace. This year, it's been the pitching that's kept you alive, right? Despite all the injuries, you lose Spencer Strider at the beginning of the year, you get an unbelievable year. Reynaldo Lopez, Max Fried is pitching like, hey, you probably should have given me that contract a little bit earlier. And boy, did anybody expect what we expected from Chris Sale? Unbelievable what he's been able to do for this Braves organization this year. But when you look at the last little stretch here, even Chris Sale isn't pitching well, right? And you're throwing out a bunch of, I mean, it feels like every single week or every single day I check the Braves Twitter account and it's a new person being sent down and a new person being brought up. Somebody's on the IL, somebody's being brought up. We've seen so many new rookies this year. It's been unbelievable. Spencer Schwellenbach's been a really, really nice story, but it's incredible that it's had to be to that point where we're looking at a rookie like Spencer Schwellenbach, who you just hope continues to keep us alive. And I say us. When I say us, I'm talking about Braves fans here in Atlanta. So I don't know, man. It's not good. The injuries are the biggest part, but I think at the end of the day, the hitters that have been on the roster have just not figured it out.
Live update for you, Reggie, and for all of our listeners. Team USA final 95-91 over Serbia. They retook the lead there with about 3 minutes to go in the game. Steph Curry hit some clutch free throws down the line to get it done. We've made a lot about the Panthers making the decision to not play Bryce Young and a majority of the starters for their preseason game tonight. What's Raheem Morris's philosophy about playing starters in the preseason? A lot of teams don't like doing that these days. And what are they going to specifically do tomorrow night against the Dolphins?
I haven't heard anything specifically as of yet. Of course, they're all the way out in Miami and have been for this entire week. Been hearing from Kirk Cousins, and I'm sure, look, Kirk Cousins coming off of this injury, it remains to be seen if how many snaps will actually get. I think what really people are excited about is being able to see guys like Michael Penix go out there and play. I think just overall, if you're the Falcons organization, especially Raheem Morris, they've been really, really excited with the fact that their defense has been able to go up this week against an offense that Mike McDaniels is running, right? I mean, Tua has obviously been very, very good the last couple of years. I mean, Tyreek Hill, the number one ranked player as voted by the NFL players this last year. And the Falcons organization, every report I've read from out there in Miami says that the defense has held together at least better than they have in the past. And so, look, I think that if anything, it remains to be seen who will actually see on the field. But, look, people are excited for Mike Penix, and if the defense can show any kinds of life against that offense, you got to feel pretty good.
Reggie Chapman Jr. joining us on the program of 11 Alive News in Atlanta. Reggie, we've played a game. I started this game on Monday with Diesel and I have left it up to Diesel on how long this game lasts. The game is called Carson Beck versus. So every single day, I give Diesel a new quarterback to go head-to-head against Carson Beck. Today, I gave him Quinn Ewers, and needless to say, the game still lives on to tomorrow. Are there, in your mind, any quarterbacks in college football in 2024 that you would take over Carson Beck?
No.
Wow.
That's the simple answer. Look, man, I think there's a lot of good players in college football. I think that Jalen Milroe, I think, just from what I've seen online and just from the reports, I think he's going to take another step this year. Look, if he turns into a Sunday quarterback after how he performs this year and he continues to run how he's been doing, that could be interesting. But, boy, Carson Beck probably could have been in the league after this last year. I mean, the only reason he's back is because they lost the game. You know what I mean? So, look, I think Carson Beck has all the tools to be the best quarterback in college football. He's accurate. He makes good decisions. The team, when you go up and talk to him at practice, they are leaning on him and his leadership. And he's grown into be – and he's never had issues with confidence. People ask Kirby Smart about confidence all the time with Carson Beck, and he's never been lacking confidence, but now he's got the confidence of knowing that he's been through this all before. Carson Beck's the best quarterback in college football this year. I have no real reason to believe that they can't go out and make another run at a national title again this year. The only issue is for this team is that they actually have a real schedule. Look, I've never been quiet about the idea that I think that Georgia's schedule, while they play who's in front of them, as somebody that grew up watching LSU football in the SEC West, I've never been really super impressed with the SEC East. And so when Georgia runs through it, it's a little bit different this year. Of course, you got to go on the road. You got to see Alabama. You got to go on the road to see Texas. Those are going to be a whole lot of fun. It's going to be the most fun season covering Georgia, I think, in a long time.
You call it a real schedule. I think Georgia fans are probably calling it a horror story because of just the sheer number of top 10 teams they have to face. By the way, all 3 top 10 opponents are on the road at Alabama, at Texas, at Ole Miss. A question for you here for our local listeners here, Reggie. Is there any chance that Clemson can keep it within the spread against Georgia, or do you see this just being a flat-out, old-fashioned Georgia beatdown?
I feel like it's going to be an old-fashioned Georgia beatdown, and it's not for any real reason other than what Clemson's got going on. I think that they've got some things to figure out from what I've read. I think this another year for Cade Klubnik. He's got to try and just be a better QB at this point. But look, Georgia's got so many pieces coming back, man. I think you even lose a guy like Ra Thomas, who of course got arrested for the second time in his time at Georgia. You lose him, and this wide receiver room still stacked. You got a running back in Trevor Etienne who comes from Florida, who's going to be an absolute star, and Carson Beck, the best quarterback in college football. And of course, it's that same Georgia defense. And look, they don't like losing here at home, here in Atlanta. I mean, it's the state of Georgia. It's going to be absolutely packed. This is going to be an absolute scene, and I just hope that, look, Clemson fans are going to have to show out and be loud if they wanted to keep it close.
Reggie, great stuff, man. We always appreciate you hopping on. You do an incredible job. We'll hope to talk to you again soon.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me on, guys.